It looks like no, you don't need to do that. Thank you.
I mean, people might be wearing headphones, and I just...
yeah, blew their heads out. Yes, thank you, Corey.
That wasn't anywhere near full voice.
I understand that, but it was peaking on the microphone, so therefore, really. Hello, everybody. Welcome again to another stunning and thrilling adventure with the
You think I could have been Marty Feldman?
No, your eyes don't bug enough to be Marty Feldman. No, you just can't do that. He's designed to be Marty Feldman. At any rate, welcome this last session in March or February or whatever it is. Yes. So, it is a cloudy.
It's still February.
It's still February. Yeah, I had to say it.
Let's see, but there are 29 days, so we get an extra day in February.
We have an extra day to come, yes.
There's an XKCD a week or two ago about having to recalculate all the distances to stars because of the length of the year changing. Therefore, the number of light years to the stars changed.
Okay. Well, I was listening to a rather boring thing on how there's a leap day, and there is, and every 100 years there's we lose a day, and to counteract the fact that there is not precisely the number of days and number of hours and minutes that it takes to cross around the Earth and things like that. It was kind of boring.
Every 100 years, or is it
every
more than
100
that?
years? Every 100 years, we lose a day to compensate for the leap day.
Well, we just lose the leap day, don't we?
Yeah.
So
No, we lose another day. It does not leap.
Yeah, but
maybe it doesn't leap.
I mean, it just doesn't leap.
It doesn't leap. Okay.
Yep.
Well, at any rate, hello. We have a slight cough. We are slightly not up to best. Yes. Years that are divisible by 100, but not by 400. There you go. There's trivia for you.
Leap years that have an extra day. Leap years occur every 4 years, except for years that are divisible by 100, but not by 400. That would screw up a lot of data algorithms.
Yes, it would. Yes, indeed.
I told that story before, but my job when I was a software engineer, my internship during college was at GI Computers in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And I was working on a order entry system for the Dairyland Co-op. You're going to bring me back to webcam?
I was going to give you back to webcam,
So I was working in the order entry system, and I was using the standard date library that GIAC had. And, you don't check that. It's standard. Everyone uses it. Well, it turns out that it had a bug with leap years. And it just so happened that the year I was working there was a leap year. So my software worked great until they tried to deliver orders, or the delivery people were told to deliver orders on March 0th.
Ah, okay.
As instead of adding in a February 29th, they put in March 0.
Which still works from a...
sort of.
A delivery kind of...
It meant they had to do invoices that said March 0 on them and all sorts of things, so it caused a bit of humor and chaos.
Well, everything does. Okay.
And the moral is that you can have, put all the testing and debugging you want into your software, and those edge cases will still break it.
Yep. And now you know. Code was made to be broken.
Yep. Code was made to be broken. I like that phrase.
Yes, I have no clue which one of the human-made calendars would be accurate and consistent. I think they all had to either ignore the fact that we're not precise in our, how rude of God not to make it precisely 365 days to a revolution of the sun. I mean, instead to make it some weird odd number that you can't, easily put a calendar to.
Brainiac says the Persian calendar is the closest. It's off by less than 1 second per year, or 1 day in 110,000 years.
That's pretty damn
That's
close.
a lot better than ours.
We'll give the Persians the ironic,
The props, yeah. They deserve props.
This is Shapir's superior calendar, people. Yes.
Our enlightened governmental system. And
good morning,
enlightened,
evening,
calendar.
everybody. Good to see you again, says Tim Graham. Good to see you. Yes. How rude of God sounds like a good book title. I'm sure we could fill that one with some things. Yes. Slow clap Persians. Well, if we call them, Shapirians, then we'll all clap for them. Yes. And Brainiac says,
all clap together when we clap.
Both the revised Julian calendar and the Mayan calendar are much more accurate than the Gregorian. Unfortunately, Gregor won. Let's see. Yes, Persians, Prince of Time. Ah, yes. Exactly. So, yeah, now we know.
Okay, well,
Those
that was our stream. Thank you.
Yes, now you've had your intellectual discussion for the day, yes. And Persian plus Mayan are from the second millennia before the Common Era, or sometimes older is better. Yes, older is better because they didn't have to deal with politics when trying to make something work.
Now, when we grew up, we did not have BCE or CE. There was no Common Era. We had BC and AD, which was, I think, before Christ was BC.
Yes, BC is
and
before Christ.
AD is Anno Domini.
Right.
The year of God.
Year of God, yes.
And there was no year zero in that calendar. I don't know if there is. There probably isn't in BCE and CE either. It starts with goes from the year 1 BC to the year 1 AD. Causing much confusion.
Right. Persians had numerous calendars over the ages, yes. Nope. 1 BCE to 1 CE, yeah.
Yeah, zero was, not Christian enough because it was sort of an Arabic. Actually,
it was also, but
it was originally an Indian invention that the Arabics adopted.
Well, they said it. Yes, it predates even that. Now that they're talking about,
predates India?
Yes, they're saying that they've got mathematical things from Babylonia that used the word zero. It had complex complications and used pi. So our math. How about that? Our most complex math, or at least, not counting today's modern crazy math.
Yeah, but what they called pie was probably like meat pies. It probably wasn't, like delicious pumpkin custard pie.
It probably wasn't pumpkin pie. Yes. And I can't help wonder if it doesn't beg the question then, why doesn't the world follow a calendar that's most accurate and consistent? That's because scientists do not rule the world.
Actually, it's all about Fiddler on the Roof. Okay. Tradition!
Yeah, well, tradition and politics, as I say. Yeah.
Yes. It's, why don't we all use the metric system?
And Tim tells you, why don't we use the Dvorak keyboard? Yes! Because we're all taught. And so we
yes, the QWERTY keyboard layout literally was designed for mechanical typewriters when they were first built. Had a problem with keys jamming. If you hit two keys too close together, they would hit each other and get jammed. And in fact, even I, who didn't type all that fast, frequently jammed keys on a manual typewriter.
Yes, I would too.
So on the QWERTY keyboard, it was designed to be awkward and slow typists down, so that as they were, hunting for keys, or if they were reaching across to, hit like the P key with their little finger, that took enough time that the keys didn't collide.
Yes. So.
And they didn't put commonly like THE. The T and the H are close together, but.
Yeah, so that was why they created that, yes.
Yeah, so if you're typing the, you would go Shift-T with your left index finger, the H sliding over with your right index finger, and then the E with your middle left finger.
I believe the people that know how to type know this.
Well, I had to work it out.
Oh, okay. Yes, we have a very effective.
So it is basically designed to slow down fast typists.
We need a speed. It's Science Island that rules the world. Yeah, the only problem with a Science Island is that scientists are notoriously more pragmatic and less good. It has to, be scientific or it doesn't matter. And, scientists can be just as blinded.
And OSU Brainiac asked, does he get to be Praetorius and or Mobius? Yeah, the answer is yes. And.
Yes.
You get to be Praetorius and
You
Mobius.
have to take the downside with the good side, and I won't say which side is what. Yes.
All depends on what you put on your pizza.
All
about the toppings.
Yes. And that he thinks that the QWERTY keyboard was designed so that the most common words alternated sides of the keyboard, which, yes, is probably correct. Yeah.
Probably so.
It depends on what you like on pizza.
Yep.
Yay, yes.
Darn. Okay, so actually we don't have pizza very often anymore because we're told it's fattening or something, but we did have our favorite, a pesto sauce pizza with artichoke hearts the other day.
And sausage.
And sausage only on half of it.
Yes.
I only put the sausage on half, which Lori was distressed by, but that way we could have our vegetarian half. And our,
yes, you could eat vegetarian.
And our omnivore half.
I could have the, omnivore. Honestly, neither. I prefer sausage, yes. Well, that's a problem.
Well, my favorite used to be sausage, mushroom, and olives before I discovered pesto pizza with artichoke hearts, and then that's just so good.
The problem with tomato paste pizza is that it's so inconsistent with whether or not that sauce is good and the right amount. Everything on pizza is a balance. Yeah. So,
one of the things during the heart of the COVID epidemic is even if you could go out to a restaurant, you didn't necessarily want to because a lot of the chefs had lost their sense of smell or something, I don't know, or maybe the customers had lost their sense of smell and complained, and food was just wildly inconsistent on how spicy it was and what seasonings were used. So we mostly prefer to eat at home because Lori's better than most of the chefs.
Oh, I actually can cook. I'm an improvisational.
She has a palate. She can tell what.
And even when I'm not, I don't actually do a lot of tasting. I do a lot of
measuring,
visualization. Honestly, like last night's meal, which was supposed to be a pot roast, but I had this a quarter of a pepper, a red pepper, bell pepper, and I had a large spicy pepper, so it wound up being a chili instead of that, and added some beans to the mix, and it turned out really good. But it does need tortilla chips on the top to really make it good work.
Yeah. So I went to the grocery store to pick up milk and vanilla creamer for my lattes. So it's a desperately urgent trip to the grocery store. But while I was there, I walked past the meat thing and said, that chuck roast looks really good. Yep. And so I bought some chuck roast. Yep. And then I stopped at the pizza parlor on the way back home, so we didn't have it for several days.
Yes, aren't you?
So this is the complexity of life,
yes.
How difficult it is to be a semi-retired senior.
Yes, I actually have a friend who's allergic to pork products, so we had to be careful going to pizzerias with her. Yes, exactly. If you're, and it's worse when they're allergic to shellfish. I mean, shellfish or peanuts. And of course, nowadays, our son deliberately introduced his child as a baby to peanuts, so that he did not.
He read somewhere that if they have peanuts as a baby, that or peanut butter, that they're less likely to develop a peanut allergy later.
Mm-hmm. Almost forgot. Got into contact with Stephen Amond, and I now have the Quest for Glory section of Sierra Collector's Quest that I won a few years ago.
Yay!
Yes, hardcover and everything. It's lovely, wonderful, correct. Good to have.
We have that? I don't know.
Do we have a hardbound?
I don't know. Either a paperback or a PDF of it.
Oh yeah, I think we got the something that was.
I had something from him.
Well, we have the collector's edition, the Quest for Glory.
What?
One.
Let's see. That's probably it.
Oh, it could be.
Oh yeah, it's hardcover.
Yeah.
Oh. And That's autographed, or he put his name.
He put his
on
name
that.
there. Yes,
As if autographed.
Authors are allowed to have their name on the cover, unlike what certain game companies insist.
This one was not autographed by the Quest for Glory authors.
Oh well. Was it
autographed by Hammond? But that's okay. I think, if I remember, I don't remember. I do remember that the guy in Australia who did a book got us to and did a Kickstarter on it. We signed a bunch of book plates.
Ah, yes.
For his.
We did.
And we gave him the idea of using book plates because the problem is, you get these books and maybe they arrive shrink wrapped from the publisher. You don't want to take off the shrink wrap, autograph them, and you can't rewrap them unless you have a shrink wrap machine, which I have had at several businesses I worked at when I was younger. I did our own shrink wrapping.
I doubt it. I'm going to make to the adventure game fanfare, but if I do, I assure you, I'll bring my copy for autographs. Yay! Yes.
We're not making it to We were asked to record a line of us inviting people to adventure game fanfare, and haven't gotten around to that, like many things. Like my taxes.
Are we planning on going to that one?
Yeah, we're going to that.
Well, then you better make our
it's in Tacoma.
Reservations.
No, they're supposed to raise it for us.
Okay.
I don't know whether they're paying our way or not. Probably depends whether they have any money.
Right.
Well, we'll get there. Tacoma, Washington. End of July.
We could bring some meeps. We could bring.
Oh yeah.
We could bring.
Oh, we are going to have a table there to show off.
We will have to bring what stash we have.
We'll have to plan ahead, yeah.
Oh no, yeah. We can
can
get rid of all sorts of stuff.
We can sell boxed copies of Summer Days Tilly's Tale if we had any.
Get rid of what left.
If we had any.
Yeah, I know. What we can sell boxes for Rogue to Redemption.
We don't have very many of those either.
I know. But we do have some
We do have a fair number of meeps.
And some meeps, so we could take that too. Yeah. So.
We'd probably have to ship.
It would be, huh?
We'd ship them up beforehand. They're too much.
We got an extra suitcase and
2 cases of meeps.
One
A
half
case of meep is only 36. They'd go in seconds.
That's okay. They'd have to buy them. You think they're going to go that quickly?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then
Yes, they're awesome. Meeps are awesome.
First come and first serve. That's
the meeps are the best.
It'll get rid of some of them. Yes.
Boniac already booked.
Yeah.
Going to Convergence in Minneapolis at the beginning of the month. There's also a Sierra get-together at beginning of June in Oakhurst, which is where Sierra was located. And we had to reluctantly say we're not going to make that because we had a trip planned for then.
Yeah. David says, where did Shima's food descriptions come from? I admit I'm really tempted to try making honeyed lamb. Well, there used to be, at least at one time, a great Persian restaurant down by the convention center where we would have the
Which convention center?
The San Jose's convention center.
Oh,
you know the Persian restaurant I'm talking about, the one that the people from the magazine took us to dinner once during the computer game.
The one with belly dancing.
Yes,
the one
with belly dancing.
Okay, so by a hotel, wasn't actually by the convention center.
Well, all right.
Yeah, but I know which one you mean.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we went there. I think it was it.
Wasn't Shamshiri? No, I can't quite remember the
something
name.
like that.
Something similar.
And didn't Johnny Williams come with us? And,
yeah, Johnny Williams of Wilson. Johnny Wilson.
Oh, Johnny Wilson.
Yeah, Johnny Williams was the Sierra marketing guy. Johnny Wilson of Computer Gaming World and Russ Sipe hosted it, and they basically said, I'd like to. Have a dinner with some of the designers or something like that. And I said, there's this great Persian restaurant. They said, okay, well, we'll cover it. Okay. So they hosted like 15 of us, 10 or 15 of us at this restaurant.
And this all has to do with, yes, we know what the food of Persia was and honey lamb. Actually.
And Ron Gilbert was at that dinner.
Ah, okay. I'm glad you remember that. I don't remember that part.
Yep.
Honeyed lamb probably predates that. It's probably came from, there's a really, really dumb movie called The Brass Bottle from, that was, probably from the 70s and started,
I've heard of it, but I don't think I saw it.
Well, it's about this genie and it is the predecessor to I Dream of Jeannie. In fact, the woman that was in that movie was Barbara Eden, who became the genie out of the television series. But they served this Persian dinner at one point, which had the lamb's eyes in it, and I never forgot that scene. Burl Ives was the genie of all things. Yes, so
Brass bottle.
the brass bottle, I think so.
The brass bottle. Tony Randall and Burl Ives.
That's it.
64 actually.
64. That's how old it was, and yeah.
I was.
And
we were just kids.
Oh, you could show this because it's
I
actually
could.
showing part of the stupid movie. There we go. Look at that special effect.
Ooh. Let's see if I reload this. Maybe it'll start the movie over.
Oh, maybe he's bringing this brass bottle home, and I think Barbara Eden might have been his
I can
girlfriend.
turn on sound, but then we might get a copyright violation.
Right. So.
Oh, look at that smoke come out.
As I said, special
Stars
effects.
Tony Randall, Burl Ives, and Barbara Eden.
There's the genie. Oh, so this is just a. There's our genie. Yes.
Oh.
So this was probably.
He looks a little like Abdullah Doo.
Oh, yeah, he does. He looks a lot like Abdullah Doo. Tony Randall.
He looks like Tony Randall.
He does.
Was Tony Randall the star of I Dream of Jeannie?
No.
Who was that?
He was Odd Couple.
Who was that?
No, he wasn't very.
Curtis? No.
No, nobody famous. Okay.
Nobody famous.
Lamb's eyes make me think of the scene from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. That was a particularly interesting scene too, and we've never played with that one. Yes. Yeah. Let's see. And note that this is Larry Hagman.
Larry Hagman. Okay.
Note that this wasn't exactly.
This was our. This was one of our preferred shows of our childhood.
Yes, these are the things we watched as kids, and and we were alive for the brass battle too, but and they're not. I would not recommend them as intellectual things. They are not. They are just dumb, and they're really worse nowadays. So.
And completely off that track.
And sexist and everything else.
Completely off the track, I was going to say that Lori did make honeyed lamb after a recipe she found on the internet.
Uh-huh.
Well, we didn't have an internet, did we? Recipe she found in a Persian cookbook somewhere. Or maybe it was later when we had an internet.
Yeah, probably Nick at Night would be a place to find that. Exactly.
So, yeah, it's kind of a dumb show, but we enjoyed it. It was a comedy.
It's what we had for comedy, yes. The supper tonight is sarus stuffed with grapes and saffron rice and honeyed rabbit. I bet that Persian restaurant didn't serve sarus. No, they probably didn't. Yes. Sexist or just sexy? Yeah, well, it's just the attitude that she is the female is dumb and cannot actually comprehend modern, stuff. So, yes. Light entertainment is...
they had Amazon. She said a package delivered by flying carpet.
Yeah, well, that's what we need. We still need flying carpets. I'm sorry. Context.
So they ended up, I remember reading somewhere they had to cover up Barbara Eden's belly button, even though she has a bare midriff in her costume, but they do not show her belly button because that was considered too far beyond the obscenity rules of the 60s.
Let's see. That was that.
Okay, we're going to play Heroes Quest?
I guess so. We have certainly...
See, now we need to play Quest for Glory 2 instead.
I know, but we won't.
There's
a string in the Quest for Glory 2 script that has Shima saying, "Y'all get hash tonight, mudballs. The designers didn't count on you eating on Sundays." I see.
That would typically have been a programmer's safety line if they hit an else condition that wasn't supposed to happen in the game. So if you actually ever see that line, then it means that something went wrong with the script.
Yes. So yeah, there could be.
So yeah, we write ridiculous things like that.
No, we did not write anything like that.
No, we did. The programmers did.
The programmers did.
Yeah, the programmers.
It is a programmer.
We programmers.
Yes, those weird people that
write weird stuff to say This we just caught an error condition.
Yes. Well, and it's best to do it such that you don't actually, you know, might accidentally think that that was my writing. At any rate, yes. Yeah. I don't drop character except when it's funny. But it has to be within the character's context generally, because that's important. So, at any rate, you were going to try and start a game, I think.
If y'all desire that.
Well, we'll just talk about it. I saw somebody play Quest for Glory 1 randomizer. It was pretty neat.
Oh yeah, we heard about that. I haven't played it.
But no idea what items you're going to get. Wow, that is an interesting concept.
Yeah, items are not that big a deal in Quest for Glory. I mean, in a role playing, you know, and that's one of the differences between most role playing and adventure games. Is an adventure game, every item you find has a specific purpose. It solves a puzzle. In a role playing game, the items are either, you know, just treasure effectively, or they are tools that you can use to do things in generic ways. They're not necessarily tied to a specific puzzle.
I think of items as tools, and that's a good way of putting it. And therefore, you had to figure out how to use something in a creative way. But Bob Bates's school of adventure game logic said that he didn't like us reusing objects and that we should have a unique object for purposes. And
we did get a little carried away. We had a stout stick that you found.
Used for a fishing pole.
And so you could use it as a fishing pole.
And a poker pole.
You could use it as a pry rod to move a...
yeah, we had a whole series of puzzles designed that for Shanara.
And about the time we came up with the third use for it, Bob said, "No, you can't do that." But we said, you know, it's a stick. You know, it's a...
Yes, we want people to think outside the box.
It's a staff.
However, it was not his philosophy, and so therefore we did not do that. A friend of mine says, Tashtari, drive on fire into the software for a tape backup drive as a string for invalid error code. And he got in a bit of trouble when someone outside the company stumbled across it, and there was a mild panic about the tape drives catching fire.
There you go.
I see. Oh, great.
So yeah, when I was in school at UC Santa Barbara, we were using we had a 360 Model 75 was the mainframe computer there, and IBM was had just announced their 370 series of computers, which my brother actually worked on the operating system for. But on the you know, there were these jokes running around about the instruction set, the assembly language instruction set for 370. So assembly language was typically 3 or 4 letter you know, acronyms or abbreviations for the commands. So what did we have? We had HCF was a instruction was going to be in the 370. That stood for halt and catch fire.
Ah, okay.
And we had XOI, which was execute operator immediately.
That's a good one.
So yeah, I talked about all the new commands and how powerful it was going to be that it could do all those things.
But I bet that there were people that really wanted that last one. Yes.
The running joke was the software has a problem. It's somewhere between the chair and the screen.
Well, unfortunately, it's not always there, yes. David says, it gets interesting in the randomizer when you start without a weapon and you're not sure where to find it first. That's where it's good to be a thief.
Well, that was the problem I had with the Ragnarok game. That was the tribute to Quest for Glory. That you needed to, I guess...
Heroine's Quest?
Yeah, Heroine's Quest.
Okay, fine.
Heroine's Quest, the Herald of Ragnarok.
Okay, fine.
Thank you. Couldn't remember the main title.
Yeah.
Anyway, Heroine's Quest, that I wandered around trying to find something I could turn into a fishing pole that I knew I needed, and or a spear or something, and it turns out that there's a broken spear or something leaning against a wagon in town, and if you don't happen to see that, if you don't notice it, then you're stuck. So that's my general problem with adventure games. There's always a lot of hunt the pixel.
Yeah. and you didn't know where to look.
And try to figure out, when you got a lot of visuals in there and, a good game has lots and lots of details, as we got in the old games, you couldn't do any details, so everything was important.
Right,
but as they put in more detail, you suddenly had a lot of things that look important and aren't.
Yeah. Whereas in modern, or at least World of Warcraft role-playing games, if you need something, if an object is usable, it generally glows. And so it takes all that doubt and searching out of the game, removes a great deal of time and frustration that the player might have, but you have to say whether, it's trade-off between making a game too easy and making a game too frustrating. And that is a balance that game designers need to take.
I love that feature. Unfortunately, when you've been playing with a friend who recently returned to the game after 20 years away from it.
That friend being Richard Aronson.
That friend being Richard Aronson, the voice of Cedric. I was going to say.
Why not?
He says his eyesight is failing, and he can't see the glow.
Well, he's blind in one eye.
He's blind. He's legally blind in one eye.
Yes, so therefore,
and so he does not see the glowing objects.
And so therefore, he has the frustration of early adventure
of the way
players.
And of the way World of Warcraft was in the early years.
Yes. So yes, but it's still.
And for us, it's like, that's the thing we're supposed to pick up because it's glowing. It must be important.
Yes. David says the randomizer does have an option to turn off instant death when weaponless. That is pretty damn sophisticated, I have to say. That's pretty good. And Catoko says there's an art to the development. Pixel hunting can be frustrating, but everything glows can be monotonous. Just click the thing that the game tells me to click on. And there we have it. That is just it.
And there we have the point and click, yes.
The point and click versus the typing thing. Your games will be more sophisticated and much, much harder when it's typing. And as a result...
And more frustrating.
You've got higher frustration level and more time it takes, which is an advantage on the good side, because the longer a game takes, as long as it holds the player's attention, then they're more involved, then you've got more gameplay out of it. But, if it gets too frustrating, you have somebody that leaves the game and doesn't play.
In the early years of personal computers, it took a while for people that had been making the console arcade games to adapt to the idea that people bought a game and they owned it. Mm-hmm. Whereas in the arcade, you want people to feel like they got their money's worth out of their quarter, 50 cents, but you wanted, every game to last like a minute, and that way people would feed it more quarters. Whereas what you got at home, it was not necessarily fun to die, 30 seconds or a minute into the game.
Ghosts and ghouls or whatever that
Ghouls
was.
and Goblins. Yeah, actually, Ghosts and Ghouls and Ghouls and Goblins, I think, were the two titles of the series.
My God, but yeah.
And that was a fun game, but it was overall too quickly.
Yes. Except when you were good at it, and that one woman who marathoned it on our machine, staying over at our house, and we were supposed to be playing
level
D&D,
after level after level.
and she just marathoned it. I think she played it for close to 36 hours straight, and did not die in that stinking game. So it was like amazing, but not exactly what we were, why we had people over at our house. But that's okay. Yeah, we're easy. Yeah, if you ever want to cause a fight between adventure fans, just start the eternal point and click versus parser debate. Well, yes, but it is a balance. I can see both sides.
Well, our viewpoint is that each one has strengths and weaknesses.
Yes, exactly.
How about that?
Yeah.
We refuse to commit.
No, we don't.
All right, Lori Lori likes point and click.
Yes, I like less frustration in my games. All right, what was your rationale for giving the hero different tools based on his character class? For example, the fighter has a dead soldier with a sword in the Dark One's cave, but the wizard has a dead body that somebody put a sheet over.
It does?
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah, okay. I do now. I did not remember it before they actually wrote that.
Well, we knew we had a puzzle to get over a chasm, and we worked, spent some time coming up with different ways the character class would have a solution, and We had the idea of using, a gust of wind spell or something, or using the winds in the cavern plus a levitate
Yes.
spell.
Right.
The problem is, he said that's not logical. The winds won't really blow you, and so one of the artists or lawyers, someone came up with the idea of having a sheet that you could hold up to catch
Yes,
the wind.
be a
Did you come up?
sail, probably. At any rate, the whole concept was...
So we had the levitate spell, and then we had to say, what can you do with it?
Right, that was always a problem, because levitate, we established, only goes up and down. So you had to figure out how to get a vertical, horizontal movement on it, yes. It was all about trying to make sure that the game experience for one character class was very different for the other character classes, because we truly believed that people would want to replay and find the game.
But we also wanted some parallelism, so
Yeah.
you'd feel a degree of comfort with it.
Right.
So the idea that you need to get out of this cave, and you can find the things that will get you out of, because that's not supposed to be the end game. That's the beginning of the game.
So it should have the
So
easiest puzzle.
so it needs to have everything you need to get out of there has to be found in that cave. And maybe the sheet over the thing was a little bit contrived, but it's it's okay.
Yes, and the thief sees a sign. Well, the thief does tightrope, and that's why we've got of course the fighter could do tightroping too, couldn't he?
Well, we said that you basically had balance, you had climbing, and you had stuff, and came up with the idea of tightrope walking as a way of being able to practice the skill.
Yes,
you need to practice your climbing skill.
And Tim says, I seem to recall the thief in Quest for Glory 1 was the only one that could get all the available skills. Was this correct in terms of point distribution starting out? Yep.
Unless you found the glitch that people discovered that...
there was one skill you couldn't get if you were the thief. What was it?
No, you could get everything.
You could get everything?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. There just
thief had extra points because, we... I don't know, whatever reason. We thought that, you had so many choices of climbing and lockpicking and stuff that you needed more points to be able to customize them.
Cattle Code says, but it's weird to pick up a sheet and never need it, or pick up a sword that you can't ever use. Well, the advantage of picking up a sword that you can't ever use
you
is
can
sell it. Yes, it's money. But I did not remember. You shouldn't have been able to pick up the sheet. Honestly, if we'd coded it right, that sheet would not have existed.
Well, I don't think...
if you can't use it.
No. Catco is actually... I think they're saying that the sheet did not exist in the game unless you were the wizard.
No, he said you picked up the sheet and never needed it. So therefore...
That's not what he said.
What?
It's weird to pick up a sheet and never need it.
Right.
And that is why the game only had the sheet available if you
He's
could
saying
use
that
it.
you could pick it up.
That's
though.
not what he's saying. He said it would be weird to pick up a sheet and never need it.
He didn't say what, but it would be. But he can elaborate.
Somebody can correct that.
Yes. So yes. Would I
But
like
you're,
Baldur's Gate 3 as a Quest for Glory fan? I do not know, but I have certainly heard enough about Baldur's Gate 3 to be interested in taking a look at it. I can understand not picking up the sword if you don't need to use it. Just saying that they should all have been seen the same stuff. No, I unless it's valuable, don't put that in. And the tightrope walker.
Well, okay, the way it could have easily been handled is there's a corpse with a sheet over it.
Yeah.
And you try to pick up sheet, which because it was a type K parser game, and it says, you're not going to have a need for that, so just not let you do it. Or it's all grody and covered with insects. Yuck.
And therefore, if you played as a warrior first and then
came
came
back
out
as
as
a
a
wizard,
you'd never want to pick up
you
that
wouldn't want to
sheet.
pick it up because it's all grody and icky.
Correct. So there is that again is game
trade-off.
balance. It's a trade-off. You do not want to.
Well, it's got to do with the ancestral memory, and we've had the ancestral memory problem in D&D games where, like Cedric again, Richard has run a long-standing campaign for like 50 years, and starts over again and again with different parties, and the problem is that if you have already encountered one of his puzzles in the game and you know the solution, well, nobody wants the solution to be the same, but there's the question of do you remember that you encountered that when you were on your previous character, or can you separate yourself sufficiently and say, well, I'm a new character, he doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And Lori and I are of the theory that it should be the latter. Richard said, well, no, if you know it, you know it.
Yes, and but honestly, going back to our games, our philosophy was, whether it was at the time, but has evolved. Our philosophy is that every time you play the game of Quest for Glory as a different character, it's as if that butterfly down in South America decided to flap.
Yep.
And therefore, all the repercussions of the world changed because you chose the different character.
Which goes right along that randomizer system.
Correct. So yes.
So if we had known more about chaos theory, maybe we would have had
the sheet doesn't exist if you're not a wizard, guys. That's what we're saying.
Yep.
And so, yes, the world is different because you made a choice, and that choice has repercussions that alter the whole fabric of the universe, and that is what we do. You're saying the hero should see the same stuff regardless, and that isn't the way we play this. We want to give the player a new experience every time they play the game. Yes. I'm getting a counter offer to Arlo. He suggests everyone should be able to get the same stuff. I was trying to say it's okay to just leave it out if you don't or use it. Yes. And that's more where we go. It's a story versus a gameplay balance issue.
Today we would probably do that by having the item there for everyone, but having the text change. So that
again, it's
tough. if you're the wizard character, it gives you hints when you click on it that suggests that it's blowing in the wind or something like that, which I think we did in the game.
Maybe.
It's
kind
of moving with the winds in the cave.
I would probably leave it out because it is that problem of, I see this rag. I'm a warrior. I pick it up. It's decayed and it's all buggy. I'll never touch that thing again. And therefore, as the wizard, you do not realize it's an option. Yes. And if it was done with the bird siblings being the book, by the book. You definitely want all options available. Exactly. I don't know how we were going to handle that one. Probably because it's the Paladin's game. I think that if we finish the series, if we were the book series with the 4 siblings, each character being a different sibling. Falcon was the Paladin. It would probably be Falcon that got taken immediately, and the 3 siblings have to find him and get to him. And so therefore you would have the...
You mean left town and went to the Spielberg?
Taken to, we're talking Shadows of Darkness.
Okay.
So it would be Falcon that suddenly finds himself in that cave, and it's the 3 other kids who
would have a months-long adventure of journeying overland trying to find.
We'd have to get in contact with Erasmus and with and of course Rakesh's wife, and figure out where the hero was taken, where Falcon was taken, but they wouldn't be able to detect him at first. So you'd have this conflict, but Falcon would have to figure his way out of the conflict.
They have had stories in films in which basically a character has gone through a portal or something like that, and the other characters are basically doing detective work, trying to find out where they went. Just recently, last year or two, read Lyndon Hardy's new series. Lyndon Hardy wrote Master of the Five Magics, which is an incredible book. Read it.
Many years ago.
Well, when he was in college, about the time when we were in the 70s. But he's written some sequels since then. He wrote a trilogy originally, and then he's done 6 or 9 books or something in the series, 2 or 3 trilogies. And the latest series, they've basically got, a character that goes through a portal, and the other characters have to figure out, where did they end up?
Oh, really?
Where are they?
Okay, so that's how I would have handled it. Let's see. And Calico says, especially playing D&D. I know lots of first-level characters that know all the strengths and weaknesses of Beholder, rather than the player knows. Exactly. And that sort of takes away the thrill of the original experience of D&D, because you didn't know anything when you played D&D at first.
Yeah, I refer to that as you can never stand in the same spot in the river twice. Because once you have been exposed to the tropes of D&D, it's impossible to
It's a different
unlearn
game.
them.
It's a different game.
So you come back, because we tried that after we had a bunch of characters up to 10th and 15th level. We went back and started over with first level characters, and we could not recreate the experience of when we first discovered D&D, where that was that amazing, adventure of discovery.
Yeah. And Brainiac is asking the question I just answered about how do you do the adaptation, and I, it was since we didn't actually get that far as discussion when we were writing that book series, we just talked about what could happen. It just comes down to actually knowing that we were going to have that be the Paladin game, and so most of the worst experiences would be. Falcon would be the stranger in a strange land, and his siblings would be trying to catch him and find him where he is. For the first time in their lives, they're separated. It would be a very, very interesting. I mean, I love the writing those things.
So you really ought to get together with Michelle and write some more. Yeah. But yeah, that's they had already reverted. I was going to say subverted, but reverted to the D&D and tabletop gaming origins of Quest for Glory in the How to Be a Hero series and by the book, in the sense that they went back from having a single character that you have a choice of which archetype it's going to be, to going to the traditional D&D experience, which is a party of adventurers with different talents. So by having each of the siblings have a different skill, they wrote them into the book that way, rather than having 4 different books for each, one for each character.
Scion.
So it would be different.
VR says, one thing I didn't like about point and click was that there were topics you could choose that you didn't know yet. If topics appeared more than I had heard or found out, it would have been better. And we generally tried to flag everything. If you had not heard about it, you could not ask about it, because my text was case sensitive all through it. And so, yes, there might be places where you could ask about something you didn't know, but generally it's assumed that you couldn't ask unless you knew. So
the problem is you can't step in the same spot twice. And we ran into this right at the beginning with writing Heroes Quest, as we had this lock-picking skill. And we said, okay, we're going to have locks of different difficulties, and you need to get skill, but you can gain it by practicing. And I said, well, okay, but realistically, if you're at somebody's house and you're spending hours trying to pick their lock, sooner or later you're going to get caught by the sheriff. So I said, okay, we limit it to 5 or 10 tries and an increasing chance of getting caught. But what we discovered is that this concept of having a 30% chance of success doesn't work. If you have a 30% chance of success, then some player is going to come along, RNG the dice roll, and they succeed, and to them, well, that was a trivial lock. And some other player is going to come along when he's got to
have 38 tries, and it still didn't come up.
And they'll say, oh, okay, obviously that lock can't be opened. And so they'll walk away after 3 or 4 tries.
Yes.
So it really became a challenge to write the text and write the clues in ways that say, okay, you can't do this right now, but if you keep practicing, and trying to come up with 100 variations of that.
Right, and our job is to make sure we encourage the player to do what we wanted them to do and discourage them to do the things that they might think was a good idea, but
that we know will never work.
Right. And Arlo says, I'm of the opinion that the reason human beings tell stories is as a form of learning. By listening to a story, you can learn how to solve a problem, just as if you'd had the experience yourself. The value of a game like Quest for Glory is learning different ways to approach the same problem. If you just give them the stuff they need, they don't learn how to solve the problem from storytelling. It's like you just made it easy for them to solve the problem. That's very reasonable too.
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's the line between challenge and frustration. So the easier make the solution, the less frustrating it is, but it's not satisfying because there's no challenge.
Yes.
The more difficult you make it, the more challenging it is, but if it's too difficult, it's just frustrating. So you want to make it, there was a... I think it was Ron Gilbert's thing on Why Adventure Games Suck.
Uh-huh.
He wrote about Indiana Jones
We've told the hat
diving
a
through
time.
the door.
Yeah, we've told that
driving through the door and trying to retrieve his hat with his bullwhip. And the idea was to make it feel to the player as if that was really challenging, but somehow they just barely succeed.
Yes.
And that's when you get the endorphins hit, and you get the reward that says, I have overcome. There was a challenge, and I rose above it.
Thank you very much for following.
Thank you, Daravos.
So, also on this thing is you've got to remember that puzzle with the cloth and the things like that were your first experience with Quest for Glory 4. That you want to make in game design your easiest puzzles up front. You want to hook the player in by giving them that, oh, I figured this out. That must be the clue. And no, it wasn't tough. It was easy, but I figured it out. You want to give them that satisfaction early on because this is operant conditioning. You're trying to think of this as operant conditioning. You are rewarding the player for his behaviors early on so that later it can get tougher and tougher. And they've already invested their energy and they know they can do this. They know they can just have to think about it. So easy puzzles first, hard puzzles towards the end.
And teaching them the interface that as you succeeded, they say, oh, that worked. Okay, I can try that again later. You have a new tool in your player toolkit. I would argue, actually, that the opening scene of Quest for Glory 4 is too difficult. It is overly frustrating. You've got to basically search around in the dark and stumble over a body and then figure out, oh, I can search that body that I just stumbled over, the skeleton, whatever, and eventually find the torch and so on, so you can see where you are. So that opening room is really hard.
It is. It's probably harder than.
And the cave is somewhat challenging.
Yeah.
But we wanted to say this is a game that has challenge, but we also want to teach the players so that they know what to do.
Well, our game is. I've always told people that learning and teaching is a subversive activity, and that my games are teaching the tools, and that they do teach you to have the opportunity to think outside the box and find different ways to approach a problem. So yes, I do believe that this is a form of learning, and that's what I'm doing, is trying to teach you in subversive ways.
OSU solved your problem of how you get to to Shapir, to Mordavia, is that the players, the siblings, hitch a ride with Dr. Cranium as he's heading home after getting the infinite Antwerps from
Yeah, I'm not sure how Dr. Cranium gets there, actually. Yes.
Never mind that.
I think he has them airshipped, honestly. Let's see, not the reason. Sometimes you just want to have fun. Yes. You want to have fun. Yes, that's the player must have fun is the number one rule. That you learn something from it is a good thing. And it isn't necessarily the player's role. It's the teacher's role. It's the game master's role to make sure that the player has a complete experience, both learning and fun.
And of course the question is, what's fun? They've done some research with, was it chimpanzees, apes, something like that, that discovered that if they gave them, puzzle boxes that had increasingly difficult to open and so on, that they seemed to really enjoy figuring out and solving how to open the boxes, and that whether there was a reward in there or not didn't matter. It was all about the challenge.
On the other hand, if you rewarded them every time they solved this puzzle,
they got
the
bored.
minute you stopped rewarding them for solving the puzzle, they never touched the box again. So therefore, that's human nature for you, even if it is an ape. The minute you get, if you're getting paid to do something, you'll do it. But the minute they don't pay you, it's like, this is not fun anymore. I don't want to do it. Yes.
Yeah, that was the B.F. Skinner research in operant conditioning, and we actually literally embedded operant conditioning into Heroes Quest. That we said, okay, we want to give players the occasional reward that will encourage them to keep trying and keep doing more, because it will feel cheap and not rewarding if you always get rewarded.
Yes.
And if you never get rewarded, then it's frustrating.
Right. So that is what the nature of operant conditioning is. It's rewarding ever so often so that you get that dopamine flash when you actually get it.
Which means I occasionally felt guilty about making addictive games. But on the other hand, that's what made them fun. So.
Yes. And we had the big debate there. Opinion that the reason is learning, and Brainiac counters that with it's not the reason. Sometimes you just want to have fun. And Arlo says, I think it's the reason. Survival of the fittest didn't evolve based on what's fun. And Tashtari says, yeah, but it's a game. What's fun is of paramount importance.
Well, once upon a time, we said what Lori just said, that rule number one is the player has to have fun. But over the years and decades, I've come to realize that, well, what's fun? And sometimes, I've written articles about this and
yes,
stuff.
You have the fun factor.
The fun factor. But I've heard fun, the word used in so many contexts that I don't consider fun at all. And what's fun for one person is not necessarily fun for another person. And what's rewarding is different for different people. So it isn't just about having fun.
Challenge is a part of fun. Fun is made up of complex things because yes, not everybody likes the same thing, but also, if you don't get challenged to try to do something, then it's just an activity. And so therefore, there are puzzles in games because they allow you that reward of overcoming a challenge. Let's see. If survival of the fittest is all that matters, computer games wouldn't exist, really. And Arlo says, survival of the fittest evolved to help us derive enjoyment from stories that teach us practical skills. It's the reason magic bullet solutions never work in stories. It's like, oh, you just made this thing up to get out of it. Those stories aren't entertaining. That's interesting, and yes. And then
the Deus Ex Machina, machina from Greek drama.
Right. Oh, gods came down, everybody's dead. Everything's solved. Yes,
yep.
Right there. Yes. And Brainiac says, yep, Quest for Glory was pretty good in that regard. They did that in the Quest for Glory 2 remake as well. Yes, they understood the game. That was a difference. Remakes... The fact that group that was not related to Sierra and only talked to us peripherally about the game, they got the game and they made it right. So, yeah.
And I distracted myself because when I was talking about the lockpicking, my point wasn't actually the lockpicking. My actual point was messages, options are sometimes there and sometimes not. And the problem is that if you have talked to someone and said, well, what's the password? They ask you what's the password, and you have your 5 choices, all of which are incorrect. And you later on learn the password, you're going to have been trained not to go back and answer that question again.
I don't think that case works, because really, if suddenly you hear what the real password is after you've already tried to make it up, then I think you'd be encouraged.
So that one may be obvious enough, right. But a lot of these, the fact that we have added additional options to the dialogue tree might not be obvious. The Hero U is full of them.
Yes.
Hero U, everything is conditional. And so messages only appear in your options menu if the conditions are right for that message to appear.
So the game is very variable. Let's see. Now we've got Arlo saying when a story no longer teaches a practical skill, no longer has a point, and human beings no longer derive enjoyment from it.
I would say that all depends.
Well, I would also say then you have to ask, why do people play the same stupid game over and over again?
Knowing how the
knowing every puzzle in this stupid game.
And rereading books and rewatching movies.
God, rereading books.
Lori is reading the Custard Protocol.
And first I had to read the Parasol Protectorate. Then I had to read the series of the Assassin's School for Assassins, but I don't remember what they called that one. And then finally, I'm reading the Custard Protocol, and those are, let's see, 4, 8. This is the third book of that.
I don't know, but anyway,
10, 11. I have read 11 books in the past 5 days.
My point is there is no trace of learning a practical skill from reading those books, unless it's learning how to write better.
Right, and learning rereading vocabulary written in that Victorian era prose, and so yes, there's things to be.
So if you're planning on writing something in that setting, then yeah, but otherwise, it's not really practical information.
It's entertaining, though. Yes, I think you're demanding a very specific, crucially
Yep.
non-universal definition of fun. Yes,
Yep.
I think
It is. That is one aspect of fun.
it is, but that's a pretty universal concept that stories with magic bullet solutions in the end tend to not to be popular, and we agree with you there.
Yes, but purely silly stories that are just jokes and things, those are fun too, to a degree.
Yeah, and Brainiac says, I get massive enjoyment out of the Monkey Island insult sword fighting, and it doesn't teach me a darn thing of practicality. Well, it is teaching you.
It's a challenge to learn new insults.
Right, and it began by, boy, was that out of the box. That was brilliant. I mean, honestly, Ron did amazing with that idea.
And Hal, I think Hal Barwood, I think was involved with that.
Okay, fine. Storytelling, says Juan, it helps us to learn empathy. Seeing or feeling through perspectives and experiences that are foreign to us is powerful. Yeah, that's also very true.
So actually, Hal Barwood, many of you may not know the name because it's not as obvious as Lon Gilbert and Tim Schafer on stuff. But Hal was a Hollywood screenwriter who went to LucasArts to do whatever it was called at the time to make adventure games, and so he brought the screenwriting sensibilities and skill in writing to Lucas. And was a very important part of a lot of the early adventure games.
Let's see. XCOM players know a 95% chance is anything but a sure thing. That is, yes, and it's so frustrating. I hate to say that. It is very frustrating when you know you could do something, but you roll that 1 on your dice,
Yeah, it's a critical failure.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. I think you can argue that those skills keep you alive in the tribe, which is valuable to all.
Yeah, sure.
We'll not do that. That's true.
But it isn't the only form of entertainment.
Braided headmen. For the Paladin, was it ever possible to convince General Claudius in Quest for Glory 5 to surrender? I heard rumors that it was possible. It never found the solution mentioned by Rakesh. Honestly, that I don't know. Was it programmed?
Was it intended to be programmed?
It probably could have been, because if Rakesh said something, then I certainly meant it to happen. But between the fact that this took 3 years to do, and the fact that
I thought it was 5, but anyway, several years
to do. It really, I don't know what the execution was.
And Tashtari says, I think that was removed at some point. There is some text in the game about how he's beyond redemption or words.
Very good. Thank you for answering that. Yes.
So it may very well be that the project was running so late and so far over budget that we said, we got to trim some things and we'll just take out that path because we don't have time.
Yeah, and it would have been a good thing, but it was a very complex game. And the general thinking is it was intended but never coded, and that's probably correct.
Einsamler says the opening scene of Quest for Glory 4 was frustration because he had to crash sliding down the slope. Otherwise, enjoyed getting out of the cave.
Yes, I know.
So by opening scene, I meant the place where you first appear.
Right.
But having a bug in the third room in the game, it was like, oh, that killed us. We hated that.
Oh, God. Do you know what...
The entire game was full of bugs
it was so
in the original release.
It was so much despair. Honestly, when Quest for Glory came out, you're supposed to be elated that you accomplished this. We got it out. It was going to be... And it was just like total.
Yep. And
the worst experience, people. They killed my baby.
And even in the CD-ROM version, that was one of the things they didn't fix. And part of the problem was that in between the original release and the CD-ROM version, computers got faster.
Yeah, so it got even worse.
So the way you get around the crash sliding down the slope on modern computers is you turn your settings down to the very slowest speed and sort of inch your way down. But it's really stupid that should even be possible.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was a disaster. And Calico says, yeah, everybody had that. And that's like, no.
Well, that's one of those challenging learning experiences.
Yeah.
Yet another valuable learning experience.
And on the subject of everybody loving to learn, it's highly dependent on culture. There are a number of 18th century operas and ancient Greek dramas that were very popular that ended in Deus Ex Machina. They were so popular and pervasive that the term was coined. There we go. Yes, there's the counter to that. Yes, why do we have stupid things that have dumb endings that, the whole concept of a melodrama is one that's going to, probably have a Deus Ex Machina, everybody's happy ending type of thing, yes.
Cyan says, I found the beginning of Quest for easy, but you guys who are in this stream are not the typical hundreds of thousands of players, many of whom maybe weren't that good.
Yeah. Cephalus Squid showed up. Thank you for showing up.
Yay.
And
anyway, we need to zoom through this because we're once again an hour into the stream and have not gotten to Heroes Quest, and I do not want to have two streams in a row where we didn't play the game that we advertised.
Oh, yes, you can. Oh, I know what I was going to do. You can play the game, and I'll go to my other computer and look and read the questions and type things, and yes. Oh, no, God, error 47, don't remind me. Boy, yes, really.
Error 47. Now, I just, the other day, looked at the bedroom where we've got an old computer and saw that we have another desktop microphone just like this one, and Lori could have a microphone.
I have that microphone because I won it.
And you
can won that
you
microphone.
Well, you won this one, I think.
Did I?
Yeah, I think it's the newer one.
Oh, okay.
It's slightly different.
Okay.
Lori was part of the AT&T, what do they call it?
Women in Gaming.
Women in Gaming.
I don't know what it was called.
Yeah, anyway, there was a Women in Gaming competition by AT&T Unlocked, I think they called it. And Lori was a finalist in that, and they sent her some cool stuff. She got a jacket and new microphone and ring light for the web camera and stuff like that. So.
A camera? Yeah. I could be seen on my own computer.
Ketoko says there's gambling research about inconsistent, unpredictable words, very attractive and engaging. Yes, we were fully aware of that when we did Heroes Quest.
Yep. And let's see. This is Twitch. Okay.
Tim Graham says, I always found it was about escaping reality as well as fun. Well, escaping reality is fun. Comfort reading, gaming, entertainment. Why do people reread?
Yeah.
You need to reinforce learning.
Yes, in certain places.
And many of us have bad memories. But, I never used to watch movies more than once because I basically remembered them. And there, I think Yellow Submarine was the first movie I saw twice.
What's our website? What are you? Twitch.tv. That's right. I know the address. /Transsolar Games.
I'll bet you're going to destroy our performance and cause the game not to play right. Okay. And escapism still has conflict. Protagonist likes a girl, gets rejected. Yeah, well, I just never asked anyone out when I was in school because I was terrified of being rejected. Later on, I realized I'd gotten some clues that there were some girls who actually liked me. I didn't understand it. I didn't consider myself pretty or anything. Very few stories where everything is just perfect and nothing ever happens. So we went to a screenwriting class. That was one of the few classes that Sierra actually paid for us to go to. And we went with Bill Davis and Lori and me and a couple of the other game designers to it's called Story Structure by Robert McKee. And he talked, he was basically a consultant to a lot of Hollywood screenwriters and directors. And he went through Casablanca was the thing that he used as a big learning thing. So the first thing he did was show us the opening scene of Casablanca and talking about the letters of transit were the much sought after things.
And everybody going through Casablanca to get out away from the Nazis.
And everyone going through Casablanca to get away from the Nazis in Germany. And then he stops the film and says, okay, what do you think about that scene? And do you realize how ridiculous that is? And that the entire thing was told in a very serious newsreel style to make you believe it, but it's all nonsense. People did not go down to Casablanca to get out of Germany. If they'd made it to Casablanca, they were already out.
It's the big lie.
Yeah, it's the big lie. I was actually going to say something else about the story structure workshop. I don't remember. So, overcoming obstacles. Yes, a totally different topic was the overcoming obstacles. He said that your basic thing that makes a story work in a film is that basically people normally do the easy thing. We all go through our lives and we do the same thing. We, commute to work by the same route every day. Maybe when I was working for Olivetti, I always stopped at the donut wheel and got a couple of pastries and discovered I put on about 20 pounds. We, until there's an obstacle, we do things. So what makes things interesting enough to be in a movie is you put a roadblock in front of that path that people are going to follow. So they get to the donut wheel in Cupertino and it's closed. Oh no! What do you do? Okay, well, maybe you skip your donut, or maybe go out to a breakfast place. And if that happens several times, maybe you actually change your habit. They said that's what makes a story interesting is conflict and frustration for the protagonist.
And roadblocks.
And roadblocks that he needs to find solutions to. And so that's what, storytelling in films and novels really is all about, is taking people out of their normal, comfortable life. And that's also
Yes, you're the one that was going to play the game.
I was going to go play the thing, but instead I'm lecturing.
Yes. Tim says, I always thought it was about escaping reality as well as fun.
Yeah, well, I said that one already.
Okay, fine.
She's repeating me.
Somebody said, that was in the response to that, they said, it was definitely true for me, says Corkhammer. It was all about being a hero as a child. Yes. And Arlo said, why do people reread? Well, to reinforce that learning, which is, it depends on what you're learning. Let's see. I'm not saying people are necessarily conscious of the fact that they're learning problem-solving skills from stories.
I mean, I didn't reread The Lord of the Rings 5 times or so because I was reinforcing the learning. I reread it to once again immerse myself in a world I loved, and to maybe catch nuances that I hadn't found the first 3 or 4 times. But mostly it was to go back to something I loved and something that I enjoyed. And I think that's the major reason why you reread a book. I mean, I reread Master of the Five Magics a couple of years ago because, that was one of the books I saved when we moved out of Awani. But it was a book I loved.
All right, and Arlo says, I think escapism still has conflict. The protagonist likes a girl and then gets rejected and learns how to deal with it better or something. Usually stories are about overcoming some obstacle, which is the same with movies and games. There are very few stories where everything is just perfect and nothing ever happens. Most people would find those stories boring. On the stupid end of the slapstick scale, where a story contains no practical lessons, usually only very few people enjoy those.
I don't know. Was the court jester taught you important lessons?
That was brilliant. That was clever.
Full of slapstick, but it's clever and. Yes.
The court jester, unlike say the Three Stooges.
The Three Stooges.
God.
We're mostly just stupid.
I can't deal with that kind of humor. The slapstick humor did not appeal to me because I agree with you in your basic things. I want a story to have meaning, and there isn't any.
So when we were doing a workshop at one of the early game developer conferences, we were basically, people were throwing out suggestions, and we were talking about what makes a story interesting. And somebody says, it's nothing like my life. And somebody else in the audience said, well, who'd want to play a game based on your life?
I said that.
There was somebody in the audience. You adopted it.
I said it.
Anyway, that got a laugh. But so my life was very boring because I dealt with the fear of rejection by not asking anyone out. And so my life was boring. Who'd want to play that life?
Yeah.
And it only got interesting when we started having conflict, and I started having health problems and had to get out of San Jose, and that I really wanted to get in, took a big pay cut to go to Sierra and stuff like that. So once I resolved, or ran into conflicts and found a workaround by going out and getting in the game industry, that made our lives more interesting to people. So now they want to play games based on our lives. We all live in a yellow submarine.
Okay, let's see. Back to our comments. Was there ever any plans to do an actual crossovers between any of the Quest for Glory series or the Quest series, like Prince Alexander and...
No.
No.
Every game designer at Sierra was their own entity, and they had their own group of developers. And sometimes, of course, developers that worked on... Bob Fishbach was our first main programmer on Heroes Quest, and he came over from Police Quest. So he was familiar with how the adventure games were made, but there was,
never
a thought of doing a crossover between Police Quest and Quest for Glory. We each had a franchise, and we did it.
And we made jokes about it.
Yeah, we did. We did take the moose head.
Yes.
That was in several of our games. Was at that point a trope at Sierra, and it was in Leisure Suit Larry, and the Land of the Lounge Lizards, and it was in King's Quest 1, and that or maybe it was one of the King's Quests. So that exact same.
It was the peacock that we actually stole the assets from.
Oh yeah, we took the peacock out of King's Quest 4.
Yeah. So yeah, we had the peacock that we actually used the same.
So references, but not really a crossover in terms of storyline. We all had our own stories.
Tim said, Arlo, that's a good point. I think Quest for Glory 1 gave you the opportunities to get a rest from conflict. Errata's Peace was my favorite go-to. And Ian Slummer says, too much fun chatting with the fans. That's what we do. We live chatting with the fans, yes.
So as far as the release from conflict, that's why we've always described both our games and the experience of working at Sierra as roller coaster rides. Is because you get that tension as you're climbing slowly up the hill, and you're...
We missed a raiding party.
Oh no, we had a raiding party? Thanks, Raid.
Party of 5. Obscurity got us.
Hi, Obscurity.
Thank you.
Hello, Obscurity fans.
Yeah, we're just catching up on our messages. Yeah, sorry about that.
Lord of the Rings 5 times? I don't know, maybe been 10 by now.
What?
Did I start with The Hobbit? I did not start with The Hobbit the first time I read Lord of the Rings. Right. I heard about Lord of the Rings from a girl I kind of liked in junior high school. And she said it was these amazing books. And I read the books, and I didn't know The Hobbit existed. And about 2 years later, I found there was this book called The Hobbit, and set in the same world, and read that and said, well, that seems kind of thin compared to Lord of the Rings. It's more of a children's story. It doesn't have the depth and richness of Lord of the Rings. I
didn't like the writing style of the Hobbits as much. And so I read The Hobbit first. I wasn't going to read the trilogy until somebody else made me do it, and then I loved it.
But yeah, I like the trilogy much better than that. But I mean, I've gone back, and then after reading The Hobbit several times, I said, this is actually a really excellent book. And, it's got some of the greatest tropes, and the dealing with the trolls, and dealing with the spiders and Mirkwood. I mean, it's amazing. The whole goblin thing and finding the ring, all that stuff is really, really great stuff. So The Hobbit is an amazing story. But the writing is more mature and more detailed and more realistic and believable in Lord of the Rings.
And Belzar said, I remember watching that stream, i.e. the stream where I actually...
Where Lori
tried to get
did the...
finalist.
Yeah.
For the win, I voted
thing.
for Lori. Thank you very much.
Well, good.
And Einslommer said, oh man, Yellow Submarine. My parents rented that from Blockbuster before I'd even heard of the Beatles. Yes.
Whereas I saw it in the theater.
Yes, and Darla says, I'm like you. I don't understand why girls like me either.
I actually had a girlfriend at one point, who made the comment. I made some self-disparaging remark or whatever, and she said, "Well, you're not hard to look at." So I said, "Oh, really? I thought I was."
Okay.
So yeah, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit. So The Hobbit really is a truly great book, and it's worth revisiting. But I had, I didn't know what order to read things. I went to my local library and started going A to Z through the authors in the science fiction section, which included fantasy, discovering books. So I read everything by Asimov. And much later I discovered Heinlein and loved him. Gordy Dixon was on the way.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I stopped around Albert, but I was going to say that Isaac Asimov had the Foundation trilogy, which I loved, but I started that with the second book because it was, I think it was Foundation, Empire, Foundation, and Second Foundation. And it seemed clear to me that Foundation must be, bye, Scion. That Foundation had to be the beginning of the series, but it was actually the second book. So, yeah, eventually get it all straightened out. Okay, so we're going to go off and play a game.
And I'll still read.
And Laura will read stuff.
Brainiac says, my uncle adores the Stooges. So, yes, presuming universality of fun is a very unwise thing. Yep. You got to start with a Hobbit every time. Okay, and so Arlo says we can stop so you can
remake.
play
I don't quite remember how this goes. I guess I clicked the play button.
You'll have to figure it out, yes.
I did this just a month ago, but we didn't do it 2 weeks ago. Ooh. And then I have to type the number 2 because this is a typing game.
Ah, okay.
The software you're now using was produced through the efforts of make copies.
Legacy of adventure game fans. There are too many words. Yes.
And I always like this one. In other words, it's not just the law, it's a good idea. Mm-hmm. It's not just a good idea, it's the law.
Yeah.
I don't hear anything.
I don't either. But I don't have any sound, so I'm not hearing anything, yes.
Healer. We're at the healer hut.
Ah. Didn't we have a problem with that last time that there wasn't having sound at the game? Or was it just there wasn't sound at that particular
volume.
type?
It says it's 16. It's not working.
Ah, well. Oh, well.
Oh, well.
Legacy of
I'll turn it down to 4, though, in case it suddenly starts working.
Somebody get me the "We're Not Worthy" Wayne and Garth gif. Okay. And Edenway said, I found The Hobbit to be far easier to read than Loder, more of a fairy tale. Loder struck me as more serious. Yes, and yes it is.
All right, you're carrying 10 food rations. Good thing. Won't starve to death. 1 broadsword. Yeah. 1 leather armor. I really had to get some chain at some point. 1 shield, 1 piece of paper, and 1 glowing jam. Glowing jam. That should be useful somewhere. So one of the Ron Gilbert theories on adventure games is that you should never come across an item before you need it. You should always come up with the puzzle first and a solution to the puzzle later. And we don't fully agree with that. So in this case, I got the glowing gem. And I think let me look at that again. How much money do I have? I have 1 gold coin and 4 silver coins. Let's try ask about lizard. Buy healing potion. You find you have less money than you thought. Oh, okay, I think I tried this last time. Well, let's say goodbye. Time to say goodbye. Sid doesn't take it to sing it to her, but... Oh, by the way, if you happen to find a ring in your adventures, I lost my favorite gold ring. I'll give a reward to the one who returns it. I'm a Muppet.
I see. A female Muppet at that.
Oh, what to do. I'm Miss Piggy.
You are.
Look at bird. Look at tree. Tree's large oak. Look. Oh, there's a nest and a single limb. It was very important in typed games to have somewhere in the text clues to what you ought to be typing. So look at nest. Made of twigs, leaves, and herbs. Probably stolen from the healer's garden. There's a bird-like creature sitting in the nest. Okay. Search around. I don't know if this will work. Look around. Okay, so what we need to do here is pick up a rock, but I don't think there are any clues to it. Do I have any climbing skill? Controls. No. How do you get to the character sheet? I don't know. Action. information. Character sheet, Control S. S for sheet. Okay, you'll notice some of these numbers are in red. They are ones that have changed. Now, to me, a red would mean that it's gone down, but apparently it just means it changed. We have no climbing skill, but we do have a little bit of throwing skill. So we cannot climb that tree. So I'm going to cheat and say pick up rock, even though nobody's told me there's any rocks here. Oh, get rock? You pick up a few small rocks. There's no reason to believe, but other than the fact that this game's supposed to be reality and there are rocks everywhere.
Yeah.
Throw rock at nest.
Cattleco says all men are rough on the eyes. Some are tolerable. I think we're graded on a curve. That's very true.
Oh no, we scared the bird away.
Oh no, you did. Well, at least you didn't hit the bird. Good game.
The nest sits in the branch, and it no longer says there's a bird in the nest.
He says turn it up to 17. Yeah, really.
Right.
Isn't that sound that early in the game? You can still try playing the intro if you want to find out if your sound works. Yes, I thought we had that problem last time. And Tim shows a very, very good image of it work.
So what is happening here is this could be frustrating because obviously this is the wrong solution. Now I scared away the bird-like creature, but it's just gone. So I did not, help the healer with that. And these rocks are all missing. So obviously that's not the answer to the press. I don't have any more rocks. But now if I do Control S, we will see that our throwing skill has gone all the way up from 10 to 22.
Pretty fast return on investment.
Yeah, this is a puzzle that is frustrating because there is no clue that I'm doing the right thing other than having played the game before.
That's very, very bad.
This is bad game design.
Bad game designer. Test.
I blame Lori for not writing you messages. The problem, of course, is that Lori, now I'm using the space bar to repeat. Oh, we knocked it down. You see the glinting object that remains the nest. So what it should have done is the first time it should have said, you missed the nest, but the bird is startled, or just the bird is startled and flies away. And the next time say you throw a rock at the nest, but you're not really very good at throwing yet. And then you would have had the clue to keep trying. So that would have been better game design.
Let's see.
Tash
says you can actually fence the glowing gem. That was not good. That was bad. You can
sense it?
Fence the glowing gem.
Oh. Only if you're a thief, which I'm not. I can't get to the...
yeah, but if you can fence it, then that blows the game. So, therefore, bad game designers.
Does it? I think you can... Can you end the game without meeting Baba Yaga? I think you can.
No.
I think you can.
No, you can get it, yes.
All right,
Locks you out of anything by Baba Yaga.
What just happened here is the hands-off mode. The dragon cursor there means that you cannot type anything or act at the moment. But when the nest fell down, the hero went over to the nest, bent over, and it says you pick up a shiny gold ring because that was obviously your intent, and we didn't want players to get confused by that, having to figure out what to do with it. So now if I do a Control I will see we have one gold ring. Look at gold ring.
It won't know it.
It is a fine golden ring.
Ah, very good.
It better know it. Now, I could also say, look at the ring. And that tells me the same thing. So this is the beauty of the parser, is it knows that articles like the are unimportant, and so they are optional. It knows that gold is an adjective for a ring, so if you had a brass ring and a gold ring, that would distinguish, but if you type look at the ring, you only have one ring, so it knows what you're talking about. And this is some of the early research in natural language processing. Let us knock at the door. There was a whole research study where they had a visual setup of a game that you had balls and boxes and so on, and just being able to give commands like put the blue ball on the red box took a considerable amount of work to be able to make the right assumptions so that if you had more abbreviated things. And but green fur. Come on in. The green fur, of course, referring to the green meep, which you've gotten a clue about. What can I do for you this time? Show ring to healer. Oh, thank you for finding my ring. Oh, I missed this. Here are 6 golds and 2 healing potions for your reward. I would have had Lori read the healer in a much more realistic way if she'd been here.
It's much funnier listening to you.
6 golds and 2 healing potions. Wow. Now I don't have to worry about not being able to afford healing potions. I had 1 gold before, so I don't remember the cost of them. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have my ring back. And then there's the big yanking him over and kissing him, which was probably very embarrassing to many of our preteen players.
And it was very tough to do.
That was a difficult animation, but not so hard on the 16 color low resolution animation as it became later on. The kissing scene, or kissing or hugging in, I think it was Quest for Glory 5, Mark Arrow told me took him a month to animate that using Maya or Softimage or whatever the tools he was using for animation, that it was really hard to do because you couldn't just move the character models together. You had to actually animate the changes in the models because of that position. Anyway, you put the reward away and tell her she is welcome as you leave to avoid being kissed again. Oh, the hero is embarrassed and has a really silly face, animated by Jerry Moore. Right. I don't even have to ask to know who animated that. Yep. So, we are now rich.
Okay, let's see. First time chat. Jeff says, I was watching an interview with Steve Conrad yesterday about Space Quest 6. Did you work with him on any games? Corey?
Steve Conrad. I knew Steve, and I think he might have worked on 5. He was there, but I'm not sure what game. The answer to all such questions, which I'll have to kill my game here to do. Answer to all such questions is mobygames.com, like Moby Dick. Moby Games has tells you everything. So if we look up Steve Conrad, we will find a Steve Conrad, a Steve Conrad, but there's only one Steve Conrad, and he worked on 25 games. View all. His first game was Castle of Dr. Brain.
Oh, that's why you know him so
well. I guess I know him, and he also worked on Mixed Up Fairy Tales. Those 2 games were done concurrently by different teams, but there was some crossover. I don't remember what Steve's role was, but he was I'm pretty sure he was a programmer. And he worked on Leisure Suit Larry 5, Passionate Patty, Castle of Dr. Brain, Macintosh version. I think Steve was a Mac user. He worked in the Dagger of Amun-Ra and so on. So you can see that Police Quest, Gabriel Knight, Phantasmagoria, Quest for Glory, Shadows of Darkness. So he was in a lot of our games and a lot of other Sierra games. And that's one of the reasons that sometimes you have, the feel of the games, had some continuity between different games, even though they had all different designers. It's because the team makes the game. And so I remember Steve, but I don't specifically remember what he did or what he worked on. I thought he was part of the systems team, but maybe I'm probably wrong.
Anyway.
All
right. What's his profile? Juan says, thinking about storytelling in Quest for Glory, I don't recall any instances where the hero experiences...
I recognize him.
Okay. Experiences loss or failure as part of the story, where they pick themselves up and overcome it, not just as us players failing and restarting from a previous save. He can't remember. Oh, Quest for Glory. Maybe
What are-
not in the first one, where you experience loss or failure as part of the game. I think that you get a sense of loss and failure in Quest for Glory 4, for instance. A failure to actually...
Can you hear Lori okay?
Yeah, that was a question.
She has a cross 5 feet away on the other side of the screens. So let me know whether you can hear her. Let her know whether you can hear her.
Yeah. I can't read. I'm not down to the bottom of the scroll.
Okay, loss and failure in the game. So obviously dying was possible.
No, that's a player failure. That's a player thing, not a character thing. But I would say there's plenty of loss and feeling like you're failing in Quest for Glory 4, because that was the dark one.
Yeah, Quest for Glory 4, and this is one thing we've seen several times in World of Warcraft, but, in all the games that where you do something where you're kind of on rails, and you're forced to do something that is a terrible thing to be doing. There was an interesting quest at the beginning of the Night Elf experience in World of Warcraft, where a satyr approaches you by the side of the road and asks you to do something, and you can tell from the dialogue that you should have misgivings to this. Well, you can't really tell he's necessarily evil, but it's questionable.
Yeah.
It's at best questionable. And then you learn that you've lost a whole lot of reputation with the Night Elves, but you can do a new series of quests to atone for error. It turns out that as a metagaming viewpoint, it's actually best to do the evil deeds and then atone for them, because you end up with a net of more experience and reputation from doing that than if you had never done the quest in the bad quest in the first place.
Or having to do something that is going to kill another character off. That's always, not happy the second time.
Yeah, so you get a choice that, where you have you feel like you have a no-win condition.
Yeah.
Or that, you can save another. And, this is the thing, Star Trek, they have the thing with Spock and the needs of the many and the needs of the one and so on. Or in, what was the war movie, the Spielberg war movie? Saving Private Ryan.
Right.
Saving Private Ryan was all about, let me go back to full webcam. Saving Private Ryan was all about a rule that the military had that you could not have every member of a family in the field at the same time or something like that. And that it turned out that happened to this one family, and that, 2 of the family members died in action, and the last brother was a prisoner of war, and so they end up, spending a fortune and, putting people in danger and risking people's lives in order to save the last brother, because they couldn't have the entire family die in war. And to me at the time, and still, that's a really stupid rule. Why would you risk 100 soldiers for the sake of one, just for some arbitrary rule? Right. And that's why our idea in Paladins and Quest for Glory is not about arbitrary rules. It's about intelligent, decisions of what is actually right.
All right, let's see. Braided Headman said, the nest would occasionally glint, giving away the clue that there might be something shiny in the nest. Yes, that's the correct behavior, and I think it does.
Yeah, actually. So it does guide you to look at it, but I didn't happen to notice that in this playthrough.
And Cromwell says, regarding the no sound thing, are we sure we aren't muted in Windows? That's possible, too.
Muted in Windows. Our sound's all the way up in Windows.
Oh, let's see.
And it is, let me see what our sound device is. Sound settings. Where to play sound. No, it is supposed to be played on my primary monitor, which is actually the smaller one.
We need to get speakers, clearly.
We need real speakers. This is silly.
Yes.
Okay, there's a way to test sound. Let's
While
see.
you yak about that and figure it out, Arlo Hero says it's interesting that by this point, graphics had become such a staple of adventure games that you no longer had to provide a meaningful answer to look for some of these rooms. People actually were observing the graphics around the hero. Yay! And Tim says, pray for the bird. Arlo says, throwing rocks at the pterosaur is the reason you can't become a paladin in this game. That's it, because you had to do that. That is clear, yes. Other than the fact that nobody ever heard of a paladin at this point, and you certainly didn't have paladins up here.
Okay, so we've just played a test tone and it came through fine.
Okay, fine.
So sound is definitely on. And the game has its own settings with using DOSBox and stuff. And no idea.
Katako says, when you try to climb, you get something good like you need a lot of practice to climb this. Yes, that is good hints, as long as you can actually learn how to climb. And if you don't have any climbing skill to begin with, you will not learn.
Ah, yes, that was a rule we came up with. If it was 0 level in skill, you cannot approve it. If you have a non-zero level, so holding down the Alt key brought up that menu, but also allowed me to hit Alt-Enter, which is what DOSBox is looking for. So, wandering up the road.
And Arlo says, oh, having to keep pressing Enter to those messages every time you press space enter to throw rocks would have been annoying as hell. Thank you, Lori, for not putting those messages. Well, yeah, good. I'm glad you approved that. And Arlo says you can go directly to the castle after escaping the brigand's lair, and you will see an ending sequence which reminds you that you didn't break the prophecy by driving away the ogress. Whether or not that's winning is debatable, but I do believe it shows you flying off with the caddis and allow you to export your hero. Yes, you can have a partial win in this game. And Catechism says, but green fur. And Phantom Beaver says, it should have been Henry kissing her. Yes. Okay.
That would have been a good joke we didn't think of.
Yeah.
I said open gate, because what else was I going to do? And the game interpreted that as talking to the guard and asking the guard to open the gate. And he says, were you talking to me? I tried yes, and that didn't work. But then I tried open the gate, please. And it figured out that please was an acceptable word to have in that sentence and didn't break it. And said, very well, and opens the gate.
Brainiac says that unique backing out animation, which is back to the kissing scene, also seemed like it would have been space intensive for minimum use. Yeah, that was all unique animation for that room. We most of the animation is reusable, and we had a number system. All those different poses and things were numbered and on a spreadsheet, and you had to keep track of it. And we tried to keep unique animation down to a minimum, but it wasn't that big a deal here. I think healing potions are what, 40 silver?
Okay, so that's got work. He says, I can't tell you anything about that. Why don't you ask Carl? That's interesting. I'm not quite sure who Carl was. Was that the gatekeeper? It is not our place to answer questions.
Did anybody else find it strange that Arthur, Quest for Excalibur, and Conquests of Camelot weren't part of the same series?
Oh,
or was
weird.
that just me? I don't know. I mean, I don't know Quest for Excalibur, but it was Christy Marks doing Conquest of Camelot and the Robin Hood game. And after that, she went on to something else. And you get loss and failure when you're locked in the cavern by Adavisan too. That is true. After all that, you've done all these
heroic things, and the bad guy hypnotizes you.
And you got out of jail
forces you into this cave and says you're not getting out, but you can do a thing for me. So anyway, I said steal horse, and nay, says the horse.
Very good. Let's
That wasn't
see.
a very appropriate thing to say.
Phantom Beaver says, if
You're looking for some work?
Is it okay to ask, what did you do in the years after Sierra closed its doors and up to 2010?
Okay, that was a bug. It left me in hands off, so I didn't even know I could type. Ask about work. That's what I was asking you about, Nimrod. Yes. No one responds. He left. What?
So at any rate, what did we do after Sierra closed its doors, Corey? What did you do?
I don't know. I probably played games. Let's see. So Sierra closed its doors. So we got laid off, and are fired. Our project canceled after Quest for Glory 4. because it was after 4. Yeah, after 4.
After 4.
Because we were told that we had to take a major budget cut, and I said we can't do a game like this with a budget cut. As it was, Quest for Glory 4 released as one of the buggiest games in Sierra's history. It needed more money, more budget, not less. And so they said, okay, fine, we'll cancel you. So at that point, I went to work for Bob Heitman, who I worked for at Sierra. He was my manager at Sierra initially, and Bob had started his own company, and he was doing a online multiplayer game that what was it called? It was not yet. Okay, so anyway, basically, it later became named Passport 2, but I don't remember the thing. But for a very major company, I won't say the name, but its initials are Microsoft, that he was doing this project under contract to do online tabletop games like chess, checkers, and he brought me in to write the bridge content, which was kind of a recap of when Richard Aronson did the bridge game for Sierra, and I did a little work on that. So we did some work on that, and that was interesting because a different company out on the East Coast was doing the server part of it. This was a client-server application under Linux, and I had never used Linux, but I'd used Unix before I ever came to Sierra. And so I picked up Linux fairly quickly and got into their code, and we were writing I was basically working with Bob on the communications protocol that we would use in order to send messages to the server saying what the player was doing and getting messages back, technical stuff. And eventually, Microsoft decided the project was taking too long, and that was largely because the server people weren't getting their part done. Our stuff was ahead of schedule. So they canceled the project, and Bob had some sleepless nights, I imagine, and then scrambled and managed to get the rights to the software he'd already written and licensed it to Legacy Software, which is different from... So we did Shannon for Legend Entertainment, but that story comes later. Legacy Software in Los Angeles, and they rebranded it as Passport to Bridge, Passport to Chess, and so on. And we had that up and running for a while, but we ended up having problems with them, and they ended up with financial problems, not because of our code, but because of they were doing some very expensive educational games and discovered there wasn't a big enough market for that.
There's no short form to this, Corey.
No short form. There's no short form. There's no short way of saying this. But I could probably type something which will cause it to pause. So anyway, long story short, that project died. And all my bridge code, I really had fun writing AI for that and so on. But then we talked to Bob Bates from Legend Entertainment at a game developers conference and mentioned that our project just been canceled. He said, well, how'd you like to go do a project for us? And we said, well, sure. And so he had us submit 10 game ideas. And this was an echo of when the educational games were happening at Sierra, and we submitted multiple educational ideas. So this time we submitted multiple ideas to Legend.
Okay.
They said, these are great ideas. Here's the game we're going to do instead.
Well, the question is, what did we do after 5, not 4?
All right. So eventually we get pulled back. So what do we do after 5? After 5, Richard Aronson, once again. So everybody's incestuous in Oakhurst. Richard Aronson was working with some science fiction, fantasy, and gaming friends of his from the LA, San Fernando Valley area. And they were doing a project called Explorati. And Richard was doing volunteer work for him. He got us in as consultants for that. And they said, okay, well, we're going to raise some funds and we can pay you for this. Well, the catch was they needed our help in raising the funds. And anyway, but we had a paying job for a short time for Explorati until they ran out of money, doing a multiplayer worlds. And the idea was to do fantasy worlds initially, and then they ended up getting a contract with Procter and Gamble to explore the idea of doing soap opera worlds. So it'd be like soap operas on TV, but they would be multiplayer online worlds instead, which lasted until 9/11 2001, when an airplane hit the World Trade Center where Procter and Gamble had their headquarters, and that killed the contract, um, and then I got a job. So yeah, things happened.
I wrote a book.
Oh, Lori. Lori wrote a book after I got the job. So I got the job because I'm part of a mailing list of the Hackers Conference, and I went to some of the early Hackers Conferences. Haven't been in a while, quite a few years, but I still keep in contact with those. And one of the people there was Robert Woodhead, known for wizardry. I guess I need to go back to Alt-Tab and go back to webcam. So Robert Woodhead and Andrew Greenberg wrote the Wizardry series of games, which were part of our inspiration. Certainly were the inspiration for being able to save the character and continue. And they were also the inspiration for why we had the heroes' stats keep going up each game, so that we could have gradual improvement instead of trying to do it all in one game. Anyway, he was working with his kids doing killer robots and participating in robot fighting competitions, and mentioned that one of the robots was going to be on a TV show that was doing that. So I tuned into this TV show, and they had an advertisement for, okay, so the long story short, life is a series of random events, some of which lead to things, some of which go nowhere. So in this case, I saw an ad for Monster. I got onto Monster, and they had an ad for a job that perfectly fit my skills. They wanted me to participate in writing an online poker program, and I said, oh, it's just like the online bridge program I wrote. And it happened that I was visiting my mother at the time down in San Diego area, and this was a job up in Oceanside, so in Los Angeles, so I drove up to LA and got the job on the spot. So I moved to LA while Lori stayed in Oakhurst for a while and worked on doing online poker. And about a year and a half later, that looked like the company was in trouble, and I ended up taking another job up in San Rafael, working for Take-Two, which does the 2K Sports line, working on the server side of that. And I got sick. It turned out that I'm extremely allergic to the San Rafael area, and so that job died. And then after that stuff happened, and moved back home and did some consulting work and stuff. But and somewhere in there, Lori got together with Michelle Baker and wrote a book, and Michelle also showed Lori this new game called World of Warcraft.
Well, but I also did the School for Heroes.
And yes, so in the course of writing the book, Michelle said, oh, we should have a website to publicize it. So they made the School for Heroes. And I guess it was originally How to Be a Hero.
How to Be a Hero School.
The How to Be a Hero School. And we lost contact with the web master for that. So we started our own, theschoolforheroes.com. And that was all. We had the idea of making a game that would be associated with the book. So this was all to publicize her book. And then the book fell by the wayside, and eventually we said, hey, that idea we had for a game? People said, well, why don't you make a game? And then there's this Kickstarter thing, and look at what Tim Schafer is doing with Double Fine Software. You should try Kickstarter. And the guys from Andromeda, Mark Rowe and Scott Murphy, heard that and said, oh, we should make a new Space Quest-like game. And Jane Zenson said, oh, I should make a new Gabriel Knight tape game or something. And Al Lowe got the news. He said, oh, let's remake Leisure Suit Larry, because unlike all the other Sierra designers, I kept the rights to Leisure Suit Larry. And so that became Leisure Suit Larry Reloaded. So 2012 was the golden year of adventure games at Kickstarter, and we were one of them. And since then, we've been doing stuff. And then in order to publicize our new games, Hero U Rogue to Redemption, we got a Facebook presence, which I'd never been on Facebook before. And then we got a Twitch presence and said, we actually started this out on YouTube. Somebody said, you should stream on YouTube. So we did some streams. We had a lot of technical problems and breaking up. So we went to Twitch and had fewer technical problems. And we've been on Twitch ever since. So these streams are all an outgrowth of How to Be a Hero, which was an outgrowth of By the Book, which you can read on our YouTube channel, which is @Hero-U, I believe, or something like that. Let's go find out. Let's go to YouTube and search for our channel. It's @Hero-U-Game. That's kind of weird. So you would go to youtube.com / @Hero-U capital G game. I don't know if the capitals matter. View your channel. So that's got all kinds of Hero U Rogue to Redemption stuff. It only has 878 subscribers. If you guys aren't subscribing, you should. And all these streams. Twitch only keeps our videos on demand for 2 weeks. So we put them all up on YouTube on our Hero U Rogue to Redemption channel.
Okay. So you have yacked for a while.
I've yacked.
Cattle Code says the thief really has similar animation from the backing away from the healer's gifts. He has similar animation to stop the cat from pouncing. Well, actually, he uses the same animation so that he can be in a position for the cat to pounce. That's it's inverted logic. You had to get the player in the right position away from the cat, and therefore they use the same animation.
On a metagame thing, I am looking over here at our YouTube channel, and it's not animating now. Oh, I have to click on it. So this third video from the left shows the little clip it shows is me continuously picking up this cup and sipping from it, which I was just doing as I was watching that. So
okay.
We got a little metagaming here.
Yes. Let's see. Quest for Excalibur.
What is real?
Quest for Excalibur was an Infocom text adventure. Okay, thank you. That'd be like Excalibur and First Knight having to be the same series. Yes, they're nothing alike, yeah. And Tashtari says, yes, that same sprite is used when you break into the sheriff's house and open the sheriff's back bedroom door, too. We had, this list, and we had only a certain number of animations that we
so basically the cost savings was, once the animation was done, you started looking at, or the artist would look at, where else can that be used? So if we said, we need an animation for, being scared of this giant cat, they said, oh, okay, I've got animation like that. And so they would reuse it rather than making a new one. Because remember, these games initially all fit on floppy disks. And the 5 1/4-inch floppy disks on the PC at the time had 320 kilobytes of space. And you didn't want to have too much on any floppy disk. You need more floppy disks for the game, and drove up the cost of goods, and Sierra couldn't make a profit on it.
Einzelhammer said, I told you that story, so I could tell you this one. That is the story of how Corey works. He will tell you a story so that he can actually get to the story he was meaning to tell, yes. And Brainiac says, environmental allergy? Yikes. We've had more, the reason we moved to Sierra, as much as anything, was because we were getting away from the environment of San Jose.
Yeah, I first started having asthma when we lived in San Jose. I had allergies in college, but when we moved up to San Jose, I started getting asthma from my allergies and pollution and so on. There's a lot of pollution from auto traffic in the late 70s, early 80s of San Jose. And it was, I was sick all the time. So said we need to get out of the city. And the Sierra opportunity came around, and I reached for the brass ring.
Yes. Outlaw seems to be the only Sierra developer who liked being there. Although got to work at home a lot, let's just put it that
Yeah,
way.
he didn't work in the office very much.
Right.
We
so
worked full time in the office.
There might have been a relationship there, but I don't know.
But, we loved making Quest for Glory. We loved the people we were working with. We hated that, first of all, that we run starvation wages. And second, that, they kept throwing curves at us. Yeah. So when they took the artists away and said, moved them to a different part of the building and said, you can't talk to the artists directly, that was horrible. Lori had an art background. And why can't she talk to artists to make the art for her game?
There were a lot of things.
That was just ridiculous.
Phantom Beaver says, I was underage during the first Kickstarter, so I didn't have a way to back you, but I kept checking the Kickstarter page and pledged money every single day, keeping my fingers crossed when I hit the goal. It felt good to be able to support during the next Kickstarter in 2015, 2016. I'm so glad, we really appreciated it. It was why it said we can keep making games. That this is important, and so therefore we.
Yeah, we had an amazing start to the Kickstarter. We got to 100,000 of our 400,000 goal very quickly, and said no problem. Except that was all the hardcore fans found us quickly, and then it slowed down to a trickle, and we started getting $1,000 a day or something, or $2,000 a day, and we said we're not going to make the goal, and. People told us, don't worry, the last week of the Kickstarters, or the last 48 hours of the Kickstarter is the other time when the funding starts coming in rapidly. But we were very close to coming up like $20,000 short of the goal. And Kickstarter's winner takes all. If you say your Kickstarter is 400,000 and you get 380, you get nothing.
Yep.
Project fails. And we actually had a friend borrow money and to support the game, and we had to repay it afterwards. So, which is strictly against the terms of service of Kickstarter, and we can now admit that we should have been kicked off Kickstarter.
Yeah, right from the start. Yes.
We cheated.
And Beaver says, I thank you for talking about the middle years. I never knew that in addition to all the epic things you've done, there's a lot more to it. You've definitely led very interesting lives. Yeah. And Calico says 10, 5 and a quarter for the amount of discs. And Brainiac says, I'm just old enough that my discs were almost all 3.5. So, as a kid, floppy made no sense.
Yeah, they didn't feel very floppy. 3.5-inch discs
were never
stiff.
Floppy. I mean, they never got the real floppy discs. They
Oh,
don't.
the real floppy disk.
Yes.
Okay, the 8-inch discs.
The 8-inch discs.
8-inch
were the
discs
real
that
deal.
they had on Chromemco, and that I had for
yeah.
my first S100 bus computer that I
think
built.
we honestly have any here.
I think
right
I threw
now.
them away.
I think we threw them all away, but they really were floppies.
Yeah, they were really floppy.
So you guys never experienced it.
And they held like 120K on 8 inches. So smaller the disc got, the more they held.
Yep.
The Atari ST discs held 640K. And then meanwhile, PC leapfrogged and went from 320K to, 1.25 megabytes or something like that. And something. Anyway.
And let's see.
So the disc kept getting more and more capacity, but it wasn't until the CD-ROM that we really felt that we were no longer restricted by disk space.
Arlo says work from home existed back then. I got to work from home mostly for the first 2 games because I was a contractor to Sierra. And I could do my writing at home.
And somebody will have to tell us if Lori's too faint.
Yeah.
So.
But let's see. And
we had a young baby, and Lori mostly stayed home with Michael.
Yeah.
And then once he started being in the office full time, we put him in a local preschool, which was quite traumatic for us.
Yeah.
Or more so for him.
I don't think so. He got all the socialization skills he needed to be a functioning adult, unlike us.
Yeah, I think we were about an hour from the deadline when we passed 400,000. We ended up like 409,000 on the Kickstarter.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we had picked the number 400,000 because that's what Tim Schafer used for Double Fine Adventure. And we had the fantasy that we would do as well as he did because that project ended up at $3.3 million, starting with $400,000 goal. We didn't know that it matters to have an established company like Double Fine, and that and that having an established mailing list and players that know that you're still active in the industry and that you can bring to Kickstarter. We thought the Kickstarter magically supported games, but no. Projects bring people to Kickstarter to support them. So we brought in all the Quest for Glory fans when we started getting some free publicity of press talking about our Kickstarter. And by 2015, when we did the second Kickstarter, that all dried up. The press was no longer interested in future games being supported in Kickstarter. They were interested in what just got released. So.
And there is a discussion of discs, and we are up to date on our...
Yay! So at 4:06 p.m. With 24 minutes to go.
I remember the PC Game article back in 2012. Good.
Yeah, I was approached by someone from Forbes, online version of Forbes magazine, and asked to do an exclusive interview from them. And I was naive enough about all this stuff that I didn't know if that meant I wasn't allowed to interview with anyone else. So we eventually...
exclusive interview, man.
Yeah, it's exclusive, right? You can't do any other interviews. I've always been kind of bad at publicity.
Yeah. Okay, so...
Hey, look! Lori's back!
I am back, because I caught up with the
So I hope you can all hear her over there.
Well, they seem to.
Okay. DOSBox.
Okay, DOSBox, indeed.
Oh, I need to go back to desktop. And here. And Alt-Enter.
Yay! We have a game.
And yell at Stableman. Yell at Man. Not sure what I do. Let's walk up to him. Let's first look at Man. Oop. Go away. It's just a barracks for us guards. Ask about guards. I'm not here to answer your stupid questions. Go talk to Carl, the gatekeeper. He talks to anyone about almost anything. This is our second pointer to go back to Carl. And this is what we tried to do is drop breadcrumbs to do stuff. Ask about sword. Probably said the same thing. Nope.
Nope, he isn't there for you.
He's not here for me. Do. And then we screwed up the stable.
Oh, you did? You can't get him to come back?
He probably will if I go back there now.
Yeah, I would think you should re-trigger him.
I asked about work, but that wasn't the right answer.
Oh. Can you go in? There he is.
Need some work? Yes. Good. Come in here and take a rake. That's some of the best music of the game and animation.
There you go.
Oh, I hear a little bit. The music's on. It's just really quiet because I turned it down.
I like the hourglass up there. This is Jerry Moore.
So we have the idea of working at Sables for somebody. He said, "Oh, I can animate that."
Yeah.
Okay, come on over here. So when answers of coins, say, "Now you're 5 silvers richer." Well, we just got gold from the. Oh, look at those odd pixels.
It's the hay shining in the moonlight. I mean, there's clearly moonlight. Look, you can see the light on the thing.
If you put in a day's work, you want to take a nap, it's okay with me. We're comfortable sleeping clean hay in the stable, so we can go walk into the stable if we can. Here's the key. Boom. You curl up on some clean hay and get some rest. So he's not the worst stable keeper. He keeps us. Oh, we just cleaned the hay.
We cleaned the hay. That's why there's clean hay there. Yes. Yay!
Hey.
Nose, yeah, noise. And what is it about this art style that's way more immersive than AAA games today? Yeah?
I don't know. I think it's the writing, personally.
Yeah. I think it's equally, actually, an impressive amount of detail that the graphics can show, and the artwork is quite lovely. Yes. The mountains.
And the day-night cycle was a really cool thing. So did King's Quest do that first or what?
I don't know, but we certainly did it because I wanted it. So we'll see.
I think it says, rest home, get to work now. And so we do more work.
Yes. The mountains make me feel like there's really something there beyond. Yes, isn't that sweet? It's like, I really did think that Jerry Moore was my favorite artist, but
Nishue did this.
Nishue is a great artist.
Yeah, he probably did those mountains.
No.
I think Jerry Moore painted the scene.
Yes, but it's
okay. Come on over here.
generally an artist did the background. Did the whole background. They didn't trade off.
So by sleeping there, we made a full gold instead of half a gold.
No, yeah. And you didn't eat for 2 days, so you better go get something to eat.
Oh, I probably could have eat rations. Tasteless but filling. Okay.
There. Now we're ready to go.
We could ask about the horse.
We were going to go fighting things. You don't. The horse isn't a big deal in this. There, you can hear that thing. Speaking of the music, what was involved in working with musicians like Mark Siebert to produce the tunes that you needed or were happiest with? How much were you involved in the actual creative process on that front, or was Mark mostly left to come up with his own muses? And yes, we would give the musicians idea of what we were looking for at least, but after the first game. The first game was purely Mark. He did all of this. He came out. He got the game. He was told what was going on, and he created this music.
So here's where we fill in the some of Laurie's backstory in this game. Is that we'd gone to the castle and told the Baron doesn't see anyone, but now talking to Carl, he says, "My lord sees no one since the loss of his son and daughter." Ah, that's interesting. Ask about son. The Baronet, Bernard von Spielberg, was a proud young man with the dark hair and eyes of his father, the Baron. He rode off one morning and his horse returned without him. The horse had been raked by the claws of some large animal. There is still reward offered for the safe return of the Baronet, but I fear he is dead.
The Baronet is my favorite character. Okay.
Ask about daughter. And I've been told by a number of players that they learned how to type and how to spell by playing our games. Elsa von Spielberg was a lovely young child with braided brown hair and bright blue eyes, like her mother, the Baroness, used to have. A large winged creature flew over the castle walls, grabbed Elsa, and vanished before the guards could fire upon it. Really? Creature. Dragon? We searched everywhere for her, but to no avail. Even the jester Yorick joined the search for her. The Baron sent a troop of guards to... Is that the proper spelling of troop? I don't think so. Of guards to storm Baba Yaga's hut, but I think their skulls sit atop her fence now.
Now you know
everyone
those
blames Baba Yaga. Elsa von Spielberg would be about 18 now. Ask about wife. Ask about mother.
Baba Yaga, no, those
no.
There's nothing on her. Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him well. Exactly.
Which the actual line in Shakespeare is, "Alas, poor Yorick, I knew him, Horatio."
Yes.
But everyone quotes it as, "I knew him well."
Yeah.
The powerful ogress, Baba Yaga, is the cause of all the Baron's misfortune. She's a vile creature who knows much magic.
So was Bonehead the spirit of one of the guards who was now enslaved to Baba Yaga, or was it just some spirit inhabiting that skull now? I think that...
Probably. Maybe not. Maybe one of those. Maybe something else.
Yes. I assume that Bonehead, because he is intelligent, unlike the other boneheads, the skulls that are on the wall, he honestly was an enchanted skull and probably predated the Baron's crew. I think she's always had a skull on her fence, and he was just enchanted, probably with somebody's soul.
That's us at the farm. Noticing you're dressing him. The centaur stops and gives you his attention, and then you have to type it all over again.
Yep.
Good thing you just hit space to type it.
Yeah.
I can grow enough on this little plot to feed my family in the village. You should see this field at harvest time.
Good form, saving your game often. We've learned the hard way, and only during playing these streams, that we are very bad at saving games.
I'm Heinrich Ferdefeden. I live in town with my daughter Hilda, who sells our produce on Market Street.
And of course,
Does she sell apples?
By the seashore.
I'm not sure what you're trying to do because we didn't accept that sort of thing. But ask about Hilda.
Ferdinand, of course, means horse feathers, which was the name of a Marx Brothers movie, and that's why I put it in there. It was our first reference to Marx Brothers into movies.
And then, of course, the password to the Thieves Guild, which we will not encounter in this game because we're not a thief, is swordfish. And there is actually a trope on TV tropes that the password is always swordfish.
And that's because it was in a Marx Brothers movie. So that is where that one came from. Because my brother and I once went to a small independent theater and sat there and watched a marathon of Marx Brothers movies until we couldn't stand it any longer. So
that's about brigands. The brigands attacked me a few months ago. I'm a strong fighter and my hooves are deadly, but there were too many of them. They nearly killed me. My right leg was broken, and there is no pride for a centaur who cannot run. Doesn't look broken. You don't look dead. If it had not been for the unlikely intervention of the leader, I would be dead. Ask about leader. A leader came up. See, this is where we dropped the breadcrumbs. A leader came up while the brigands attacked me and forced them to stop, or even not to hurt people for the town. Cognitive
Tim
dissonance.
had to run off.
Alas, we lost Tim.
Thank you for coming in. And,
You're welcome, Tim.
We'll be wrapping this up shortly, so you won't miss much. Thanks for showing up. We're glad to have you, and you get to hear so much trivia and stupidity.
Yeah, so you get a little bit of cognitive dissonance here, where you learn that the brigand leader doesn't fit what we've been told about the brigands all being bad.
Yeah.
I also noticed our score is already 81 out of 500, so we made some substantial progress in this game. Just I got 3 days of play.
Well, to my amazement, the leader gave me a healing potion and had me carried to the healer's house. How about that? It's hard to judge the leader whose face was obscured by a large helm, but there was compassion unlike a brigand.
Just in case you hadn't already picked that up.
Yes, we wanted you to know things. And the healer is to these. Yeah. So you can also learn that. This is all trying to fill you in, make sure you have all the information you need to play this game. Yeah.
Now this appears to be a generic answer, but it isn't. I said, ask about Baron. It says, I'm sorry, I know little about the Baron and his family. So it was obviously hard-coded, but it's kind of in the form of the generic messages we had earlier.
We have yet to do any fighting. It is now the fourth time we played this game, or third time anyway.
Fourth time we should have played it.
And yes, we ran away from monsters maybe, but we never fought. So before we leave today, we will look for a monster to fight.
I'm trying.
And actually watch you die. So why don't you save the game here? And we'll see how good Corey is.
I don't think there are any ones. Are we in easy mode?
Is there an easy mode in this game? No. No modes, Corey.
Time of day. It's mid-morning.
Good. We have time to find something.
Because we had to work in the early morning. There's a corner.
There is.
Where'd light magenta bushes?
Yay, a monster! Yay, Hurley!
I could say.
Da-da-dum.
Yeah. I stabbed him, verily. I dodged. It didn't help me. I got hit anyway. He shield blocked.
Yes, we did it! Yay!
Was it a monster?
It's dead, of course. It doesn't smell very good either.
This, of course, a tried and true D&D trope. You always search the bodies.
How was the time of day resolved in the early games? Good question.
It is advancing in real time. It is 1 hour of real time is 24 hours in the game. And we just have a timer that's going on all the time to do the animation and everything else. And as you walk around, time passes.
Therefore, when messages are up, it does not.
Yeah, that pauses it. So that's why or if your text entry line is up.
Oh, the sports getting spirea. Again, influenced by a fountain we saw when we were in.
Yeah, it was a kinetic sculpture in front of the Phoenix Convention Center that spat water between different parts of the fountain.
Yep. That Corey was there and I were down there. I lived in Arizona at the time, but Corey lived in California. But he had come there to see
for the
IguanaCon,
the World Science Fiction Convention in Phoenix, Arizona.
Yep, and we didn't actually meet there, although Corey says he saw me. He thinks, but no. But we both were very impressed with just the fascination of watching it spit the water out of one into another fountain, and then that fountain area would suddenly decide to spit it back out and go to another one of the things in the series. So it was very much, they weren't flower shaped, they were box shapes or something like that, but it was the action that just was so intriguing and fun, and that's where
this
we
is
got
just
this idea.
this is just amusing.
Yeah.
And following the Ron Gilbert rule, we have no reason to want that seed, so we'll leave it alone.
Yep. We're going to look for one.
And when we need it, we'll never find this that screen again.
Oh, no, there we go. A tougher monster.
Throw dagger. Do we have a dagger?
I don't know. Do you?
You don't have any daggers. Look at man. Uh-oh. This looks like one of the brigands that have been terrorizing the valley. Better hope his friends aren't around. Ooh, can fight multiple. Attack! Fight. No, we didn't heal up after our last time. And this guy's probably tougher than Kobold.
Probably. And you're going to die.
I don't have time for that.
Run away. Who was the model for the brigands? Dude looked straight out of the 80s. Good thing.
Okay, we have 26 out of 39 health points. It did not heal us to full. Should I drink another one?
How many
Or
do we
should I
have?
rest? We have one more.
You could rest here.
After 10 minutes rest, you feel better.
Much better.
We went up to 27 health points. Now,
There was no real model for the brigands, just trying to get something that looked like a
and
person.
any moment now, that brigand could come after us, but wait, he isn't coming after us.
What a surprise.
The reason he isn't coming after us is because this is a special scene. This is not a generic forest scene, and we didn't have the memory
Why
to have the...
walk?
Huh?
Why did you say walk?
Because running uses up my stamina and won't help as fast. And so monsters cannot enter that scene because we weren't programmed for combat in that scene.
Although why we weren't, because we were going to a separate combat scene.
Yeah, but it's still all the code in that room is not dealing with combat. Is dealing with.
It wasn't easy to call room code. What do we know?
Oh, this is a lovely place.
Yeah.
Okay, so that music was kind of beepy and boopy at the stables. It's beautiful here.
The meadow lies
It
covered
works.
with a blanket of flowers, unusual for this early in the spring. It is warm, even though surrounded by the late snows of winter. The air has the fresh, clean scent of the mountains, accompanied by numerous perfume-like fragrances. A large carved stone lies flat on the ground.
It's right there.
You feel as though someone gentle was watching over you. You feel like you are safe here.
And that is a clue. And we have a flashing thing. Look at rock, because it's closest to me. Appears to be ancient, deliberately placed. Marks carved in the stone almost look like writing. Reed stone. Not close enough.
Is there any Irana area that doesn't have lovely music? Okay.
The stone has the words Irana's Peace carved along the top. There's some runes carved along the side. Read runes. It reads,
If thy will is magic, then shall I share. Open the stone and claim what is there.
well, my will is certainly magical, so I will open the stone.
No amount of physical effort is going to move that stone. Yes, Brainiac debates from time to time on the peace versus the garden. It's a tough contest. Well, I'm glad you like the peace. I wasn't fond as much of the music for Quest for Glory 3 as the others, but
If you lack magic, you can't read the runes.
well, I think
But I just did.
Yeah, it wasn't supposed to, but
The small tree is most amazing. Bears blossom and fruit at the same time. The fruit in its bough seems to shyly appear and disappear, shimmering.
Right.
It's cute writing. Control S. Magic 0. Shouldn't have been able to read that.
No, you shouldn't have.
That fruit. You're not
Maybe
close
that's
enough.
only in the room. Could be. It might have been a bug in this. Yes.
Fruit is very soft and juicy. It'd be impossible to keep in your pack. How about
However,
eat fruit. It's amazingly.
satisfying and refreshing.
Look, oh, we're not fully healed. It didn't heal us.
Oh well, I thought it
I
did.
thought it restored all your stamina
Yeah,
points
that's
at least.
sad.
It
Was
should have.
supposed to- Yeah.
It's supposed to be magic fruit.
This was by far my favorite piece from Mark Siebert. The modernized versions are sublime. Well, yeah, they are. Yeah, I thought it
And
did.
look at this artwork. We have a dithered dark green and black, followed by a solid yellow with a few
Green marks.
green marks on it. Then we have a dithered dark green and light green.
No, it's not. Let's
Yes.
probably-
That's a dark green and a light green.
Okay.
Then we have a dithered, mostly red, light red and dark red with the occasional purple pixel, light magenta. And we have some solid dark red, and then we have the light magenta and dark magenta. So this is called dithering,
Yes.
and that was a technique that the artists used to make it appear that they had a bigger color palette than they actually had. The tree trunk's a little simplistic. It works, and the tree leaves look good.
I love the mountains. They look like a Bob Ross painting. Yeah, well, yes. And thank you, Thomas, for joining us and the Quest for Glory fan. Yeah. Isn't this a happy little tree? Well, isn't this a happy little place? It is 428, so we could probably...
So the significance of Irana's Peace is that we had designed the game so the further you wandered from town, the more dangerous it would be. And we said, yeah, but what if you get hurt? You need a place to rest. And so we put this in as the safe spot. And did we also we didn't allow you to take the fruit, so I guess there were no quests involving it.
Well, the minute we gave it a safe space, you have to rationalize
Yep.
why there's a safe spot, and therefore it all becomes,
And
okay, must be a person that did this. Who did this? I guess that
And
was
so-
Arana.
And so Irana's character came out of the scene.
Yes, and it was created because we had a need for a safe spot. So that just is how it works.
So I designed the combat so that if you're at combat of your appropriate level, such as that little goblin guy, that you should be able to win, but you'll take some damage. If you fight two of them, it's kind of iffy, but you should still be able to win. But if you fight a third one, that's pressing your luck. You're probably going to die. So the idea is you should have to rest and heal up or use a potion or something every once in a while. But meanwhile, we've been standing here in real time, and
It
our
didn't
health
matter
points
'cause you
haven't gone
saved.
up.
You have said, so we're going to quit Goring.
Oh, we are?
Yes, look, I said what time it
The
is.
time is there, so we're going to quit. How about a slice of quiche? Give me up, huh? So that was the popular book at the time we were writing this was Real Men Don't Eat Quiche.
Yes,
So
it was a joke.
it was a joke, but
And that was a joke, too.
it's a joke?
Yes.
I think Fishbach wrote this line.
I'm sure it did, because that's a Fishbach kind of humor, yes. Thanks for another enjoyable stream.
Oh, we're not done yet. We're going to get another 6 hours. We just aren't going to play the game anymore.
Right.
All right. Yeah. It's look, it's 4:30.
Yeah, duh.
What a coincidence.
Yes, we're closing it up at 4:30.
So we are going to time to say goodbye.
So glad I stopped by today. Well, we're glad you came in. Happy to answer questions and yak. Yes.
And at the rate this game's going, another month or two, another 3 months, we should finish
Somebody
it.
that asked.
First, we thought it would take all year.
Yeah. Somebody asked if we would ever do Hero U, and yes, we'll do Hero U in
when we get to it.
The 10 years or 10.
Oh, there we go. Or maybe sooner. One 888 it.
And
But
Braided Headman said that's very interesting. So, if Hermeto began as a convenience for players, how did Arana's relationship and her romance with the Paladin class particularly evolve from that? Well, it all came because, how do you design anything? It starts somewhere. And so, yes, Arana was a concept of who would create a place of safety and why. And then we had to justify, why don't we have combat in town, especially because there are those thieves that you could be fighting. And you had to find a rationale why you can't do these things.
And we stole a few things from our tabletop role-playing, where we had come up with a system called Fantasy Guild, and we had come up with the world of Corian. I think it was spelled Cori, but there was a cross between Lorian Goal and Cory Goal. And what was the other world we had?
Whatever. Yes.
We had Gloriana. Oh, what a coincidence! Gloriana is where Quest for Gloria is set. So in the Corian world, we had the fairy lands, and we tied this together with the first paper D&D thing I did, Tower of Indomitable Circumstance. So we decided, okay, well, that's somewhere in Gloriana or Corian, one of those. And so Lori had the whole fairy realm in there, and the haughty fairy queen that didn't get along with humans, and certainly didn't get along with half-elves because they were an abomination. And
so that starts to tie into the mythology.
Tie into the mythology, and that says, okay, well, where would Arana fit into that? Well, she's a half fairy, and therefore she is despised by the fairy queen and the true fairies.
And of course, she wouldn't be approved by humans, so she becomes the outcast. And so it all builds up by, piece by piece.
And this basically involves Lori spending many, many hours lying awake at night, and having these fantasies with herself, and occasionally sharing them with me, but mostly just coming up with these stories and telling yourself stories.
Yes, I do a lot of storytelling.
But but it's all basically about consequences, and so you have some feature you want to have and say, well, why would that make sense in the game?
Justifications
yes.
for how things.
Well, everything's got to make sense. Why do they make sense? Okay, let's come up with a story that makes it make sense.
Because we want to have that feeling of realism and continuity, and that this is a real living world, and it all makes sense. So.
And it's easier to do writing if you know why things are happening.
And what Mirror says, first time chat, welcome and thank you. Now that
what Mirror?
Huge Quest for Glory fan for decades. One of the defining games of my childhood. Thank you so much for the stream and the great memories through the years.
You're welcome. As you can see by us now, we were already not children when we wrote it, and
we use that to encourage you guys. I don't care how old you guys are. You could still do something that you love, and actually maybe make it pay for you.
Yeah,
or at least give you something to do.
I was 30 and had 10 years of career as a programmer before we even talked to Ken Williams and got into Sierra. And I had been trying to break into games some of that time at least. Mm-hmm. And we finally managed it. Yeah. So keep trying.
Keep trying. Keep going. Keep playing. And we'll see you next time in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Bye-bye.
That was 5 I held up.
I don't care.
Love you all.